Welcome to Retro Logic. This is our Game of the Year show, except we're not doing it for 2022. We're doing it for 1992 because we're going back in time, back to the good old days, back when there was no Nintendo 64 or PlayStation. This is NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, CDI, you know, all the consoles you owned. So we're here. We're back again, guys. I've got 4 co-hosts with me tonight, so it's going to be total chaos. I hope you're ready for it. Let me introduce you guys. Let's just go around the horn. We've got Liam from Retro Groove. What's up, Liam?
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to talk about the Game Boy tonight.
Let's go. We've got Sam from Retro Logic. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Also known as Third Strongest Mole.
Absolutely. Got John, also from Retro Logic.
Yes.
Who's traveling this week,
here.
but he made it just for us. And last and certainly not least is my big brother, Adam from Retro Groove.
I am here.
He's here. We made it. We made it to another GOTY30, guys. What an accomplishment that is, I think. That we're all still here. We're all still doing our shows and having fun. I'm going to pull up last year's show because I want to do like a little baby recap of how things kind of ended up last year.
It's very responsible of you.
Yeah. You know, I thought...
Where did Sonic land in that one?
It's interesting. Shut up.
I was waiting for Flightsy to do that to us after the fact. We'd be like, actually, you guys talked about this.
Yeah,
so.
Right. Here we go. So last year
we probably still will.
We did 1991. Game of the Year that year ended up being Super Mario World. Yep. Sam, actually, you voted for Castlevania 4. And I voted for the token.
I stand by that.
Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah. So
You did.
You certainly did. Community game.
You also... You prefaced everything by saying come back next year because Sonic 2, which I think... You know, you did a little tease for this year, and here we are.
Well, next year, here's a tease for next year. Next year is Plock year, so that's going to be a whole thing.
1990 Plock.
It's also Mega Man X year and Gunstar Heroes year.
That's going to be nasty.
It's a good year.
A tough one.
Community game last year was also Super Mario World. Console of the year ended up being the Super Nintendo. We'll see if that sticks. Probably will, based on what I see. Handheld of the year, which we split up this year, we're doing Game Boy and Game Gear separately because there's a lot there. Handheld game of the year was Kid Icarus Myth of Monsters, a game that I still have to pick up.
Very good.
Yeah. NES game of the year last year ended up being Mega Man 4, beating out Dragon Warrior 3, which is interesting because Dragon Warrior 3 is in this year. I might have to make an adjustment.
So is Mega Man 4.
So is Mega Man 4. That's weird. What happened last year?
I think somebody went off some Japanese release dates last year and North American release dates this year.
Oh. Well,
I'm glad we're catching it now.
If they were in the running last year, they can't be in the running this year because they won stuff. So
yeah. So I see Mega Man 4 December 91. So that's actually a good call out.
Well, it's a good thing nobody but our community listens to this. Otherwise, we'd be in hot water. Sega Genesis game of the year was Sonic the Hedgehog, beating out Toe Jam and Earl, which, you know, I'm fine with. I voted for it, so whatever. PC game of the year is Civilization. TurboGrafx 16 game of the year is Turrican. Literally, we all voted for Turrican because I think I literally convinced you guys to vote for Turrican.
I think it's the only one that I had ever even played any version.
Yeah. That can be a little bit of an issue with the TurboGrafx games.
Yeah.
I haven't played some of them.
That's an issue this year for me, too. Super Nintendo Game of the Year was Super Mario World, of course. Platformer of the Year was also Super Mario World. Action Game of the Year, we gave it to Super Castlevania 4, even though it tied with Metroid 2. I don't remember how that went down, but something happened there. Some concession was made. Beat 'em up of the year was The NES version of Battletoads beating out the arcade version of Turtles in Time and Simpsons Arcade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There will be retribution this year for
We'll
that,
see.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. RPG of the year was Final Fantasy II, tying with Dragon Warrior 3. And Shmup of the year was Gradius 3. And John actually voted for Hyperzone in that running.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Puzzle game of the year was Lemmings because it's the best. Strategy game of the year was SimCity, beating out Civilization, and SimCity was like a whole battle we had last year. Racing game of the year was F-Zero. Sports game of the year was Tecmo Super Bowl. Underdog of the year was... Does anybody guess? Remember?
I don't remember.
I haven't heard Sonic yet. Where's Sonic?
He's in here.
Do we give Sonic anything?
Yeah, he won Genesis Game of the Year.
Oh, okay.
Eliminator Boat Duel.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
That's right. I do
Well
remember
deserved. Well deserved.
that. I agree.
Mascot Game of the Year ended up being Turtles in Time, and we actually kind of made a change this year where we have some considerations and some rules for how we're going to judge these things so we don't get confused.
Yeah, because otherwise Turtles will just always win.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't the Turtles ever not win?
Right. Innovative game.
At least for the rest of the 90s, yeah.
Innovative Game of the Year goes to Toe Jam and Earl, tying with ActRaiser, which, yeah, I feel good about that. Multiplayer Game of the Year was the Simpsons arcade game. And, yeah, so that was last year. This year, we've got a whole slew of things to talk about. So we're just going to jump right in. First, before we do anything, we have a new runner in the console race, which I guess maybe it's not brand new, but we have the launch of the Sega CD in 1992. So we'll see if that wins anything. It's not a lot there to go on. Launch
Best
here.
disc-based console.
There it is. Yeah.
No, it's got to compete with the Turbo CD and the CDI for that. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, CDI.
Well-
I think I would still give it to Sega CD over CDI. Maybe
Yeah.
not the Turbo.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's start with console-specific awards. We're going to go with our best arcade game first, and the nominees are X-Men, Knights of the Round, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Mortal Kombat, and Virtua Racing. So,
All right. How do we want to kick this off?
Well,
we want to.
if you already know the direction you're going in, you could just shout it out and I'll put you down.
I mean, X-Men. That's the direction I'm going in the arcade.
yeah.
So
that big 6-player game draws a lot of attention. You know.
I think that's true. Yeah, I feel a personal inclination towards X-Men. That's what I would choose to play, but having Mortal Kombat on this list and not giving it to it is difficult for me to justify given what Mortal Kombat was to the arcade in 1992. Like, I know like it had a lot of impact on the consoles when it came the next year, but Mortal Kombat was the arcade game at this point. So I feel like I can't. Like, is it going to be a personal choice, or is it going to be what I think is the actual representation of the biggest impactful arcade game of that year? So I have to go Mortal Kombat, I think.
Okay. One for X-Men, one for Mortal Kombat. Adam, what do you think?
I think Mortal Kombat. Oh, go for it, Adam.
It's tough. Liam makes a good case for Mortal Kombat. I personally have never been a big fan of Mortal Kombat. I know we got the fatalities and stuff like that, but as far as the actual core gameplay goes, I don't think it did all that much to advance the fighting game genre, but that's my personal opinion. X-Men, we got the 6-player, more impactful. It would go to Mortal Kombat, but like best.
It's not more impactful. It's the best. You know. Impact is a different qualifier.
Right.
But you can consider it.
Yes,
Sure.
it is a factor, but in terms of quality, they're almost kind of even. This is a tough one.
Between what? Between two.
Really, honestly, I think it's between X-Men and Mortal Kombat. And I'm trying not to let my personal opinion affect my decision too much. But I'm having a hard time picking Mortal Kombat over X-Men, even though it sort of feels like it should.
I don't know.
But is that
here's my thing, and I'm totally letting personal bias jump in here. I don't have any fun playing Mortal Kombat. Like it's fine. I also am just not a huge fighting game guy. Any 4-year-old can jump in X-Men and smash buttons and have a great time and be Nightcrawler or Wolverine or whatever. It's a beat 'em up. It's designed for easy play accessibility with multiple players, and I like up and down, night and day. No matter how I slice it, I'm voting for X-Men.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I do need to go with X-Men simply because a lot of my reasons for thinking about voting for Mortal Kombat comes down to like popularity, I think. And I'm also trying to like not just vote the contrarian vote at the same time, but for, fun factor, overall quality, I gotta give it to X-Men.
Yeah.
That's where my heart is as well. And when all else fails, go with your heart.
Yeah.
And my heart is with the X-Men.
All right, John.
Adamantium heart.
John, your vote. John, your vote doesn't matter anymore because we already have a winner. But what do you vote?
It matters.
It matters. Every vote counts.
It's gonna be John.
So Mortal Kombat is definitely influential at this point, but it didn't really start taking off until the second game, I believe, in the arcades. Like, I mean, it did well enough to get a second game in arcades, but whenever Mortal Kombat 2 came out is whenever it really started to rival Street Fighter. Like it was really picking up pace.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go X-Men on this too, because at this time X-Men was already like, a massive arcade title, and everyone was playing it. It was just a really good beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Plus,
Okay.
at that time, were there any other arcade games that were more than 4 players?
Not
that I'm aware of.
Yeah, not that I pop off my head. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty major.
Because all the the major ones like Turtles was 4 because there were 4 turtles. Streets of Rage was 3 because there were 3 characters, and you didn't
Sure, there's
have
one that exists, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Knights of the Round was 4, so I don't know. That's got to be it. Best arcade game of 1992 goes to X-Men for sure. Sure. All right, moving right along to best PC game. I don't know who has a dog in this fight, but
I have a little bit of one. Yeah.
The nominees are Wolfenstein 3D, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and Alone in the Dark, a late add-in by Liam. So
I felt like it needed to be represented for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only 3 nominees?
Yeah. That's, I put up what I'm given, and those are the ones that came to me.
Yeah. So I'll say that Wolfenstein 3D was massive. For me, I played a butt ton. That's a word? A butt ton of that
It
game.
is now.
It's bigger for me than Doom. It's bigger. Like I played like finding secrets in that game, going up to every wall and hitting spacebar to try to like find secret Nazis and stuff. It was the first time where I had that sort of experience, and then would start bombing the walls. I guess in Zelda is akin to that, but I got into first person shooters a bit in Nintendo 64, but it was Wolfenstein 3D that was like it seemed like a paradigm shift. I didn't know that you could play a game like that in that perspective. I hadn't really done first person gaming much. So my vote definitely goes to Wolfenstein 3D. I think it helped define or start the train on first person shooters.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you there on that one, Wolfenstein 3D. And to be honest, I spent more time in the level editor than I did in the actual game. But that was always a feature of a game that I super appreciated growing up, is having any kind of level editor or track editor in racing games just made the game last longer. Like, the longevity that it added was insane. And yeah, for all the reasons you stated as well, I'm going Wolfenstein.
Also, Nazis stink. Like,
yeah,
get them out of here. So, like, yeah.
Apparently they're hiding.
Yeah.
Being able to kill Nazis. Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I also played a ton of Wolfenstein, and Wolf Edit, I think, was the name of the little side program, which I'm not even sure was officially sanctioned or not. But yeah, I remember that was my first experience. You know, back then it was much more of a process to like bring your PC over to a friend's house. And that's the very first game that ever had me lug my entire PC to a friend's house so that we could like make levels for each other in Wolf Edit and watch each other suffer trying to beat them. So,
oh my gosh,
countless hours playing Wolfenstein with Wolf Edit. And I honestly don't have any other reason to vote for anything else. That's got to be it for me. I played Doom.
Luke,
I enjoyed Doom, but Wolf. I probably have 10 times as many hours in Wolfenstein as I do the original Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I love horror games. Alone in the Dark is great and kind of created the survival horror genre itself. And I have a very, very sweet spot and affinity for point and click, especially the LucasArts games. The Dig is one of my favorites. Day of the Tentacle. Like, there's a bunch of those that I adore from that point and click era, the adventure stuff. But Fate of Atlantis it's not at the top of my list for point and click adventure games. It's good. It's very good, but it's not the cream of the crop. What about you, John?
I think I'm gonna have to go Alone in the Dark on this one.
I
know at
That's
this
fair.
point it's not as popular, but this game, it did bring a lot to the table that we hadn't seen before, and it actually looks really good for a PC game at this time.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it looks like Wolfenstein 3D takes it for best PC game. I was hoping Sam would reappear before we got too far, but not quite sure what's going on with him right now. Hopefully,
we lost Sam.
Yeah, hopefully he'll pop back up a little later. But for now,
In this case, it doesn't
it's
matter.
not like his vote's going to change it, so that's good. Wolfenstein 3D, best PC game for 1992. Moving right along. If anybody has a dog in this fight, let me know. We've got best TurboGrafx game. And the nominees are Newtopia 2, New Adventure Island, Soldier Blade, Air Zonk, and Lords of the Rising Sun. And I think, unfortunately, Sam was the one who added a couple of these, and I wish he was here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we'll skip it. We'll come back when Sam comes back.
Yeah, just let Sam pick. I've never played any of those.
I could probably put my vote in. I know that I'm probably going to vote for New Adventure Island. I just love the Adventure Island games.
Yeah,
And,
it's a good one.
As much as I like Soldier Blade, I've played it and I enjoy it. If you
Newtopia is very good.
Yeah, I haven't played it. Otherwise, I might have voted for it, but
it's basically like
it's Zelda. Yeah. But let's move on to the big hitters here. We've got best SNES game. We can finally start talking some Zelda, which I know everybody wants to do.
Ooh.
The nominees are The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Super Mario Kart, Street Fighter 2, Mario Paint, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a tough list.
That's a list right there.
Yeah. So for me, I actually didn't get my Super Nintendo right at the launch. I didn't have the Super Mario World bundle. I didn't own Super Mario World until much later. I had the Zelda bundle. My dad dug Zelda. I wanted a Super Nintendo, and that was kind of the concession. It's just like, we'll get this because he liked the first Zelda. Nobody likes Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. But
Oh man, you're gonna piss off like half of our community members now.
just Chris HL, that's all.
Yeah,
So Link to the Past is just, it has such a sweet spot. I've played through that game countless times. It's so nice that they remade it as Four Swords. Basically, they gave it its proper sequel on the 3DS, but there's Adam has the map of it recently added to his wall, and I was looking at that map. He linked it in our Discord, and I'm like, it looks so small, but even when I look at it, it feels massive. It still feels so big, even though I can tell that it's not, because of how much personal connection I have to every frame of that map. I memorized everything in that game. It is such a special game. It is a tough category, but it's not a tough decision. It's got to be A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you there. I couldn't have put it better myself. It is it's up there with just the best Super Nintendo games of all time. I would argue the best 2D Zelda game, period. And yeah, there's some amazing games on the Super Nintendo, but there are very, very few games that are, to me, even close to that level, and none of them are 1992 games. So it's got to be Link to the Past.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. What about you, John?
John?
So, I think I agree with Link to the Past. The only other 2D Zelda game that I believe is better, we wouldn't have without this game, and that would be A Link Between Worlds. So
There we go.
it might be a little spicy, but yeah, I think I've got to go. As hard as it is to leave out Super Mario Kart, for how much fun multiplayer that was and how influential it was. I mean, it started a whole genre of video game as well.
He'll have his award down below. There you go, Adam.
But yeah, I think I've got to go Zelda on this one.
Yeah. I can't in good conscience vote for A Link to the Past on the grounds that I've actually never played it for longer than 5 minutes in any given.
Wow.
You guys
Hold
didn't
on,
know
we didn't
that?
talk about this. No.
Yeah, I
This
knew
is
about
pretty
this.
common knowledge.
Several times.
I think Spider-Shan just had a heart attack. What is going on?
This isn't something that I
my
hide.
God.
I've definitely talked about this before. Yeah, and I don't know why, not for the lack of love for Zelda, just never came up. It was kind of the Super Metroid thing. Like last year, I played Super Metroid for the first time on stream, and now that's my favorite one of my favorite games of all time now. So I anticipate that this would happen with Link to the Past. I love Zelda. I love Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening is my favorite 2D Zelda. So I can't imagine this would, damper that at all. So for my money, I am going to go for Turtles in Time as best SNES game. This is the game that was number one on the list of things to do with your friends. If I had a friend over, this was the game, right? Like, I had various other multiplayer games, but nothing comes close to the multiplayer co-op in Turtles in Time. So that is my grounds for Turtles in Time for best Super Nintendo game. I want to get Sam's input, but I'm waiting for him to kind of figure out what's going on before we do that. I have a feeling he's going to go Link to the Past as well.
Turtles in Time is not a bad pick. If we're talking about like best non-fighting game console arcade experience, then yeah, 100%. It's a fantastic game, and just the fact, like, if it was anything other than Link to the Past, like if Link to the Past had come out the following year, it would be, well, it might be between Mario Kart and Turtles in Time. Like,
I
it's
can't
up
vote
there.
for Mario Kart's. I don't like Super Mario Kart like at all. It's like not fun to play. If you have a future Mario Kart
What?
experience, it's the weakest Mario Kart. Maybe
It's all nostalgia.
GBA.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know,
It's
but
all
that's like saying the original Super Mario Brothers is the weakest Mario Brothers experience. It's like
it is.
it started the whole thing.
I know, but there's better games than that. They're like, look, we're saying this is the best game. Not it's the most influential, not the most innovative. Those are all different awards. This game is top tier in all categories, or at least in most categories. And Turtles in Time for graphics, for music, for co-op, that for me, that's what did it for me. And we'll wait for Sam to get back to hear what he has to say, but it's definitely going to be Link to the Past for best SNES game this year.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, let's move on to best NES game. We have some pretty heavy hitters here. Oh, somebody adjusted it already. Sweet, thank you. Whoever's adjusting them as we go. I appreciate you so much. Okay. So, best NES game nominations, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Manhattan Project, Dragon Warrior 3, which we decided shouldn't be there, sorry. Disney's Darkwing Duck, Contra Force, Dragon Warrior 4, and Mega Man 5 for best NES game.
It's kind of crazy that Turtles 3 and Turtles 4 came out the same year. Like,
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is wacky.
I think the only reason that Turtles in Time was able to come out was because they already, like, the arcade game had already been out. That came out last year,
right?
So they were like, just port it. Yeah.
Right. I didn't play Turtles in Time for a while. My neighbor had Manhattan Project, and so we went over there and played that game. I love that game. I think it's very good. I feel like Darkwing Duck is super solid. I didn't play that until many years later. But I think if I'm going for my own personal preference, Mega Man 5. I got in at Mega Man at 4, went back to 3, and then bought 5. And I loved Mega Man 5. I think it's like it really kind of honed things in. I feel like some people feel like the series started to dip at that point, but I've got a major affinity for it.
Okay, awesome. What about you, Adam? This is kind of your category. NES is your system. You just played Darkwing Duck, so I'm curious where that lands for you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be objective because I also never played Darkwing Duck. I actually hadn't played Darkwing Duck until this year. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of the Mega Man games, particularly the NES games. I'm also a huge fan of the Dragon Quest games, so this is difficult for me because I know that I've played Mega Man 5, but it's been a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played Dragon Warrior 4. And as good as Darkwing Duck is, I don't think it's up there with Mega Man and Dragon Warrior as franchises.
Okay.
I really like. I think like Mega Man is. I'm not really well versed on what the overall Mega Man fandom considers to be, the best, and where it got whatever dipping down in quality. I don't know, but for me, it kind of crested with 2, 3, 4, and honestly, I can't really remember if 5 had any kind of dip in quality. But I have a hard time voting for like best game of the year for something that, like, I have fond memories of it, but I don't really know how it's going to stack up. I hate to go Mega Man by default, but that very well may be where I have to go here. Like, I know that like NES is my bread and butter, but as far as this year is concerned, I had kind of already started moving on to 16-bit and wasn't playing a ton of NES at that point. Having not played Dragon Warrior 4, I'm gonna go with Mega Man because I know it's good. I know it's a quality Mega Man. I remember having a ton of fun with it. And, 3 and 4, 2 has the best soundtrack. I think we've talked about this last year, if I'm not mistaken. Mega Man 2 has the best soundtrack, but 3 and 4 is really where the gameplay started to shine. And 5 is, if again, going on memory, I think it's also at that same level that 4 was.
Yeah, they got easier at that point, honestly, too. Like two and 3 are punishing. No, yeah,
right.
2 and 3 were brutal, and it's that whole conversation about like trying to extend a game's length in some sense by making things difficult. At 4 and 5, I think, got a little smarter and got a little easier, so you can actually complete the games, and that's probably why I have an affinity for it. Because when I went back to 3, it kicked my butt, and I spent a lot of time, and I did ultimately beat it, but I felt a lot better about beating 4 and 5.
Yeah,
I gotta go with Mega Man 5 on this one.
All right. Yeah, 2 votes for Mega Man so far. What about you, John?
Well, to kind of go off what they were saying, I think Mega Man 2 is really just kind of regarded as the best, like consensus-wise between most Mega Man players. It's usually best game, best soundtrack. Like that's usually like the peak Mega Man, which is usually it's kind of weird, like how early it hit. But
of that series, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But as much as I like Mega Man, I can't turn my back on Dragon Warrior. Like, I don't know. Most people know that I like Dragon Warrior, so it's probably not a surprise.
Just a little bit.
This is usually my go-to.
All right, for John for Dragon
Darkwing
Warrior.
Duck does have a special place, though. I do enjoy that game.
John, do you know where does that? Yeah, where does that stand though in that sort of oeuvre of things? Because I know like Dragon Warrior 3 is highly celebrated, right? Like people love Dragon Warrior 3. Is 4 really highly regarded?
4 is less regarded, and I think a lot of that is just that because we didn't 4 was really late in the NES and not a lot of people played it.
Yeah.
And then it also we wouldn't see it again until the DS to get a chance to go back. As far as like 3 is probably the best known one that came to the US right away, and then the one that people usually like the most everywhere else is 5.
Yeah.
But
I hear a
4
lot
is a
about
good
5.
game. Yeah,
Okay.
4 is a really good game, and people shouldn't sleep on it just because it's hard to find. Like it's probably the most expensive NES Dragon Warrior game.
Oh.
But definitely play this one on the DS. It's equally as expensive on the DS, even probably now. Most of those games have gone up, but yeah, I've got to go Dragon Warrior 4 here, I believe.
Okay, voting with the heart. I'm gonna do that too. I'm gonna vote with my heart here and go Manhattan Project.
Ooh.
Dan, the true turtle fan.
I am.
Boy,
I really connected with my inner turtle this year and last year, and I love these games. I love the beat 'em ups. They're super solid. Like, it's kind of insane what Manhattan Project pulled off on the NES. It's not quite like the sprites quite aren't as big or colorful or detailed as they are in Turtles in Time, but the backgrounds and the enemies really did it for me on Manhattan Project. And it's a solid beat 'em up. Like, it's a great, 2-player NES beat 'em up. And a lot of that too just goes back to, like, I don't play a lot of Mega Man, and I really enjoy the early Dragon Warrior games, but I don't have enough experience to really, like, put my vote there. But Turtles I can vote for. So that's where we're at. So Sam has the opportunity to tie this up, so we're not quite ready to declare a winner here. But we'll move on.
He's turtly enough for the Turtle Club.
Sam is gonna have quite a conversation for us when we get back. When he gets back. He's having some home technical difficulties at the moment, which sound really unfortunate. I hope he gets it all worked out. I told him to jump on his phone. I don't know if he's going to do it or not. We'll just have to wait and see. This is why, you get a live show. This is what happens.
Right.
So the next category is Best Sega Genesis Game. And the nominees are Splatterhouse 2 on the Sega Genesis, obviously. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Hyperstone Heist. 3 Turtles games this year. Streets of Rage 2, fan favorite. And Echo the Dolphin. And Shining Force. So some real heavy hitters on the Genesis this year. Definitely some favorites in there.
I feel like, Dan, you should go first on this one.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Like,
He's gonna be torn.
I know. I think ultimately I have to go Sonic 2, but it's not an easy choice. I actually haven't ever played Hyperstone Heist. So I can't in good conscience vote for it, even though that, like, seems like, based on our pattern, what I should be doing. Echo the Dolphin has such a special place for me, but it's just so unplayable for a lot of reasons. like I
want to know where that place is. Is it like under your bed?
I don't even know. Like
a garbage can.
I think.
Oh, come on.
I think I love
place for Echo the Dolphin.
Here's the thing. I think I love the idea of Echo the Dolphin.
Yes.
But I can't play Echo the Dolphin.
It's a good soundtrack.
Shining Force.
Have the Cowabunga collection?
I do. I just haven't, dude, Splatoon came out. What do you want from me? Shining Force is great. Streets of Rage 2 is great, but Sonic 2 turned a admittedly okay platformer into a mascot, right? Like Sonic 2 took what we already kind of liked about Sonic and was like, oh no, but actually here's where we need to be. Yeah, here's what Sonic should be doing. So I got to go Sonic 2.
The problem is he's still Sonic.
Sam's back.
Oh my God, Sam's back.
Oh my gosh, the ghost that haunts me.
Bash Sonic.
Yes.
And he returns with a sick burn.
He couldn't
just bringing fire.
He couldn't let Sonic lie. He was out the whole time, and he comes back exactly at the right moment. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was sitting in the wings waiting for it. Yeah, with a flamethrower.
So good.
I'm gonna back you there, Sonic 2. That's the only Sonic game that I really love. So I'm right
over 3.
Yeah, I did. You know what? I played 3 a lot later, and didn't have the fun with it
for sure. Adam, I'm curious. Stroking your beard over there.
I'm going. See, I was hoping that I'd be able to sing the praises of Sonic 2 without Sam present. And then Sam could come back after I was done talking about Sonic 2. But honestly, Sonic 2 was the game that switched me over to the dark side and ended up with me getting a Sega Genesis for the 16-bit era as it was happening over at Super Nintendo. As much as I loved going over to friends' houses and playing Super Mario World and Sim City and Link to the Past, when it was new, like in 92, 93, Sonic 2 turned me to the dark side. And the Sonic the 2D Sonic formula really came together here. Not as much of a fan of the first game. There's just not as much room to, do the Sonic thing and go fast and all that stuff. But, 2, it's just an absolute triumph of a 2D platformer. The visuals, the soundtrack, it's just a fantastic game. And as much as I love Echo the Dolphin, it's, it's a little bit obtuse, and I can't really speak to Shining Force or any of the others so much. So for me, it's really got to be Sonic 2.
Okay. What about you, John?
Now the problem.
Okay, Sam.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Sam.
John can go first.
I don't know what John's going to say.
I was just going to say, as
Sam.
Adam was saying that Sonic the Hedgehog was held up to me as the reason you should get a Genesis, and I was not convinced. It was other games that came along later that convinced me the Genesis was actually worth my time. Particularly Streets of Rage 2.
Okay.
Also Gunstar Heroes, but that's a year later. But Streets of Rage 2 was really one of the games that made me say, oh, there are good Genesis games. It's not just Sonic.
Wow. So what's it going to be, Sam?
It's Streets of Rage 2.
It's Streets of Rage 2.
Yes.
There's no question. The only Genesis game better than Streets of Rage 2 is Gunstar Heroes, and that's out next year.
Yep. Yeah, we'll have some good Gunstar.
And I'll be right there with you next year, Sam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to look at the list for next year. I'm not quite sure. John, go for it, man.
So, as much as I'd like to hop on the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 train, I just don't enjoy Sonic that much. I'm kind of with Sam. Like, the first game really kind of soured me on Sonic, and then the second game is a little bit better, but it just doesn't improve enough. Like, it's definitely an improvement, but I'm actually going to go Shining Force.
Solid.
I know Dan.
I respect that. I respect that.
In the Darkness.
Shining Force needs to be in this conversation.
Yes. I was gonna say I know Dan played some Shining in the Darkness, which is like one of my favorite Genesis games.
Mm-hmm.
And Shining Force is kind of a little bit of a departure from that, but still a very good RPG. Like, definitely worth playing.
Yeah, I tried to push for Shining in the Darkness last year, but I got shut down. But I need to get into Shining Force. I hear it's more strategy based, which is my jam.
Yeah.
Hey John, turn your mic up like 25%. FYI.
Oh,
if you would.
Shining Force is interesting because it is probably even more an RPG than other strategy RPGs. Like it plays a lot like you walk around towns and stuff just like you would in a normal RPG. It's just all the battles happen to be, scripted on big maps where you actually have movement character per character, turn per turn. So it's a cool game.
So much to your dismay, Sam, unfortunately Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the best Sega Genesis game this year.
Boom.
Happy about that. If it doesn't win anything else,
just let. I'm aware that people think it is. It's just, I discovered they were wrong.
Do it for Tails. He's a great
and that's
character.
That's a good thing for the Genesis.
Yeah, Tails.
That it is not the best the Genesis has to offer.
So Sam,
it's the best until you try to awkwardly kill an enemy and use all your rings.
Let's backtrack a little bit for Sam, and I want to hear. We have to have a TurboGrafx conversation. So let's jump back a couple spaces and we will talk best TurboGrafx game. Sam, we waited for you because I know you have a dog in this fight. The nominees for best TurboGrafx game are Newtopia 2, New Adventure Island, Soldier Blade, Air Zonk, and Lords of the Rising Sun. So, my vote, I'll go first, I guess. My vote is for New Adventure Island. I just really enjoy those games. I didn't play a lot of TurboGrafx stuff, but this is the one I have the most experience with, and the one that, like, I just love those platformers are really fun, so I enjoy them.
You can mark me down for that one too. I like Adventure Island.
Yeah.
I played New Adventure Island, but not on the TurboGrafx.
And then, what about you guys? John, Sam, whoever?
Well, the TurboGrafx is pretty much a shmup machine, and I've come to respect it for that. So it's kind of between Air Zonk and Soldier Blade for me, and I would definitely go Soldier Blade. Air Zonk is kind of like, other than the quirkiness of it being this unexpected spin-off of Bonk, even though it's just a shmup, like it doesn't really stand up to all the others. Soldier Blade itself is maybe not the best on the TurboGrafx in that genre, but it is the best this year.
I really like it.
There's that.
Yeah, I played it on my mini.
You can thank me for putting Lords of the Rising Sun on there. That's just a game I haven't played, but I thought looked really interesting.
What is it?
So it's a strategy game where you're moving units around Japan, moving your armies, watching them battle and stuff. But it also has a bunch of like arcade style mini games that also dictate your chances of success. So there's one where you have to like chase a guy on a horse. There's one where you have to like deflect ninja stars being thrown at you. It's just kind of a cool mix of genres. So
okay, cool.
It actually also came out on the Philips CDI, and fans of the game claim that that's actually the best version, but that version came out a little earlier. So there you go.
Wow.
Good stuff. Yeah. Sam or Adam or John, what do you guys think? Any votes?
Adam, you want to go first?
For TurboGrafx?
Yeah.
I've got no horse in this race whatsoever.
Okay.
I've not played any of those games. Adventure Island is fine, but like I have no place voting for something just because it's the only one that I've heard of before.
Okay.
So I'm going to graciously bow out of this one.
Fair enough.
You can't. You're going to be the tiebreaker.
No. Oh, you're going Soldier Blade, John?
I have to, because as much as I like Newtopia 2, it comes down to it just being a Zelda, like, almost, I hate to say knockoff, but it's like it's trying to be Zelda too much and doesn't do any of its own, unique spin to it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Sam. And TurboGrafx is definitely shmup territory.
You know what?
This is the place to play them.
I'm not gonna fight you guys on that. I'm gonna give it to Soldier Blade.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
I really, really enjoy Soldier Blade as a shmup. It's really fun. And there's a million Adventure Island games. There's no reason for that to win here. So best TurboGrafx game goes to Soldier Blade this year, guys. Congrats to that game. Your trophy's in the mail. Sam, you've got some decisions to make. I've got best SNES game you need to vote on. We have Link to the Past.
Yeah, I've seen the results, and I pretty much, you can let them stand. I pretty much agree with where we've been.
All right, good deal. And then what about NES game?
NES, you know me, is Mega Man.
Okay.
If Mega Man 4 if Mega Man 4 was actually in the running this year, I would probably tip it there.
Same.
And it does seem like that's like disputed. So I have seen the release date of Mega Man 4 listed as January 1st, 92, but since we gave it something last year, it's disqualified. So
yeah, that's my bad.
Mega Man 5 is a point. That is a point where the series was kind of starting to get stale. Like, people generally argue over whether it peaked at 2 or 3. 4 was still good. 5 and 6 both are still really good, but like, it's just kind of like there was nothing more to do, nothing more to add. And especially 5 I think does suffer a lot. Even 4 had the problem once you introduce the Mega Buster that the weapons start to feel weak in comparison that you get from Robot Masters. And 5 has like the worst set of weapons, I think, out of any Mega Man game. Other than the fact they finally got the shield weapon right for the first time ever. Third tries the charm. But Star Crash, I think it's called, Starman's weapon, actually works how you wanted every shield weapon to work, and for some reason it didn't. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, so Mega Man 5 stays. Let's jump over to Best Sega CD Game, guys.
Oh,
we
man.
all know these games, right? So the nominees for Best Sega CD Game, we have Night Trap, Sewer Shark, the pack-in game, and a series of Make My Video. Yeah, I don't know if I would call that a game. It's an experience. Let's say that.
Yikes.
Yeah. Does anybody care to vote on any of this?
I mean, Night Trap has had its renaissance of silliness. I'm fine voting for Night Trap just because
I'm
it
inclined
did something unique.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to vote for
I
Night
want to
Trap
vote for
simply
Sewer
for the
Shark
memes.
just so it doesn't go to Night Trap.
Wow.
Especially not unanimously. I won't have that.
Heavy tactics.
Yeah.
Third strongest mall.
Adam, you owned one of these.
Yeah, I had a Sega CD.
Yeah.
I had the most awkward Sega CD in that I had the first gen Sega Genesis, like the wider one, but I had a Gen 2 Sega CD, which means I had to attach this little like extra strip of plastic that it came with just so that the Gen 1 Sega Genesis could fit. Because the Gen 1 Sega CD was the tray loader.
Yeah, the down below it.
Under
Yeah.
the Gen 1 Genesis. But I had the Gen 2 Sega CD, which was the flip up door
On the side.
that was on the right side of the console.
That's
and
hilarious.
it came with this plastic piece so that you could like bolt this extra plastic piece onto the
my
bottom
God.
of the Sega CD. So your wider Gen 1 Sega Genesis could fit.
This is
It
insane.
was a monstrosity. Also, the fact that you had to have this massive AC adapter for both the Genesis and the Sega CD, that was atrocious. I still enjoyed it, but man, Sega CD was a cluster and a half. So let's talk about Sewer Shark. Sewer Shark is barely a game. It's a little bit. I mean, it's a tech demo. It's a glorified
Way
tech
of the Sega.
Yeah, I was gonna say none of these are games. I think.
I mean,
The CD craze was pretty much like, oh, we can do FMV, so let's
Exactly.
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Interactive
did-
movies.
Same with Philips CDI games, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't played
I think
Hotel
it-
Mario, Sam.
I think at that time, like everybody in the industry that went to CD, like they thought that was just how like video games were going to be. Like
Yeah.
they thought that was the new thing, and everyone was trying to hop on board.
So dumb.
And yeah, no, not
I
so
will
much.
say, let me say this. Of these three, Make My Video is the most intriguing, like, prospect. Like, oh, I can take different shots and, like, cut them into the music video of a band that I like. That's kind of cool. You know, like, if I was really into, like, CNC Music Factory, then that would be, like, super cool for me. But...
So I actually did play quite a bit of the CNC Music Factory Make My Video.
Oh my God.
Oh yes, no, I one of my friend's neighbors had a copy of it, and I had the Sega CD. So it ended up at my friend's house, and I brought my Sega CD, and I was like, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make some CNC Music Factory music videos. And
Sweat.
it was, yeah, there was that. It was, so the creation process of like, cutting between these different shots. It was fun to create the music video, but then it was like, oh, you did terrible. Like you made a terrible video. And I'm like, how is the game making these decisions Like you have to hit a certain criteria for your
Wait, he
video.
judged you?
Yes.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
So
like
weird.
you had to like you would get like, okay, these are the attributes that your video needs to contain. And if you didn't hit all these attributes, you got like a poor grade on your video. So it was more than just like a utility type of software. There was like, there was a grading process involved.
All right. What are you
And
voting
that
for
part
here,
of it-
Adam? I'm.
But you know what that is? That's a thing that makes me go,
Oh my god. Where's the
Come on, it's Retro Groove.
where's the boot button? How do I get Liam out of here?
So with all of that said, I'm voting for Night Trap.
All right. Let's go. John, do you have a dog in the fight?
I'm gonna go Sewer Shark with Sam,
All right.
and it's strictly for name only.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say it's got
I
some
didn't own a Sega CD.
the like sewer shark guy is pretty cool. I really like the sewer shark guy.
Like, I want to think about it like it's this game should have been Street Sharks.
Street Sharks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like so that it just makes me want a Street Sharks game.
All right, best Sega
Oddly
CD
enough, I
game.
don't think I ever got one.
Best Sega CD game for 91 is Night Trap. Sorry, Sam. Guys, we got portables up ahead. We got
I'm not gonna get upset on behalf of Street Shark or Sewer Shark. Street Shark would be better.
See,
The best TV show
Super Shark
of '92.
guy hadn't used the term tube steak, I probably would go Sewer Shark.
Tube steak.
tube steak.
Tube steak's great.
Yeah, he's like, I need 1,000 pounds of tube steak from you, something like that. And that always, even as a kid, that always just made me feel very unsettled. It's like, why is this military-ish guy yelling at me, telling me that he needs tube steak from me? I'm like, no, I don't like this.
Sewer shark guy. Guys, let's talk handhelds. I'm done with Sega CD.
Do it.
We've got
Okay.
best Game Boy game.
Oh boy.
yes.
Flight C, buckle up.
Here we
Flight
go.
C.
Here we go. I'm gonna
talking
fight
to you,
for it.
Philip.
Here we go.
Oof.
Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Avenging Spirit, Kirby's Dream Land, and Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm going Kirby's Dream Land.
Okay.
I'm going there. That's my vote. I didn't play the Mega Mans, don't know what Avenging Spirit is, and as much as you know how I feel about Mario, he's fine. Mario Land 2 didn't do for me what Kirby's Dream Land did for
God.
me.
Oh,
Oh my
stop it.
god.
So
Not it.
that's
All right,
where
well,
I'm
hold
going.
on. Let's go to. It sounds like we need to go to John. John, where are you at?
It's got to be Super Mario Land 2. Like this game just totally changed it up. Like the original Super Mario Land was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Super Mario Land 2 has like some of the best looking sprites on Game Boy, and like
Yeah.
I don't know, just the whole game is amazing. Like
As Wario, it's a great has a great flying power up with the carrot.
Yeah.
I love those bunny ears.
It actually, I mean, this one introduces Wario. Like this is where we get him. And like as much as I know, I'm kind of pooping on Flightsy's dream
I
for this
know.
one.
It's all right.
I have to go
Oof.
Super Mario Land 2.
I think I need to abstain for a minute and soak this up because I'm really on the fence between two, and I think I need to hear others. Sam, where are you at?
So I think people are going to expect me to say one of the Mega Man games.
Mega Man 3 is very good. On
I
the Game
know,
Boy.
I know a lot of people like Mega Man 3. A lot of people like Mega Man 2 even. But having played them, I do think they suffer a lot from the constraints of the Game Boy. Like
Sure.
they do stand out, like because there are some pretty bad platformers on the Game Boy because they just like tried to port something over and didn't take into account that the screen is small and you can't see where you're going. Mega Man largely avoids that problem.
Yeah, it still
Um,
happens for sure.
One of the things to me that I thought was a problem is they're just too easy. Like
Really,
health, yeah. When
man.
they're the difficulty is just not good, I guess, because on the one hand, I remember Mega Man 2 in particular having some very cheap blind jumps where, especially in like the Wily stages, where you just and the NES games do the same thing, where you fall onto spikes, and you have to steer around them. But in this game, you don't have enough time to really react because the screen is so small.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then when it comes to like regular enemies, you kind of just like power through them because if they drop health, you're good because the stages are shorter because they just can't fit that much level onto the cartridge. So I think it really like, I guess to me, because I compare them to the NES games, and the NES games are ultimately better. I was not highly impressed. It is really cool because I think the first Game Boy Mega Man game didn't do this, but it is really cool when you get to the teleporter chamber and you don't actually rebattle the previous bosses. You fight new ones and you keep getting new weapons. That's just like a mind blown thing after like all the conditioning of previous Mega Man games, and you're like, I can get new weapons in the Wily Castle. And you even get one from the Mega Man killers, and it's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I really want to say
right?
Avenging Spirit in the end. Yeah, they are split up. I really want to say Avenging Spirit. I think people just haven't played it, and that's why it's not being talked about. It legitimately is a fantastic game with a really cool concept. It is a port of an arcade game, but I think the Game Boy version is actually better.
Wow.
Largely because they did tweak it to where you have to pay attention. Because like as an arcade game, it kind of because I've actually played the arcade game, the arcade version too. It's on Jam, formerly Pie Packer. They have it available to play for free. So you can check that version of the game out there.
I'm glad they changed the name of that. Pie Packer didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it really didn't. But so I've played both versions, and I actually prefer the Game Boy version. Because, and a lot of it is because in the arcade version, you're just kind of like expected to die and put another quarter in. Whereas the Game Boy version, like really like budgets, like this is how many lives you get. So the way the game works is you're a ghost. You're actually dead at the start of the game. You're a ghost that gets summoned by this like crazy scientist to, basically use your supernatural powers to save his daughter from, I think, gangsters. There's a bunch of weird enemies. But you actually function by possessing any enemy in the game. Any enemy in the game that isn't a boss, you can possess them and they have unique abilities. That's not only the way that they attack, but also like the way they move. Like some jump higher than others. Some can like float. They have different properties, basically. And when you take too much damage, you go back into ghost form, and your ghost energy starts slowly ticking down until you can find a new body. And when that runs out, it's game over, right? So it's actually really cool. And there are like strategic moments, because when you're a ghost, you can actually pass through walls, which you can't do when you're inhabiting a body. So you might actually hop out of a body to like skip a portion of a level. Like it's all very well balanced too in the Game Boy version specifically. The arcade version like didn't care. Like there's just some cheap like you'll just have to put in another quarter here. But the Game Boy version like balances it all out really well. Particularly in that like it makes you actually have to defeat the bosses. The arcade version you would just put in another quarter and continue and get your old body back. So it was kind of like you could just brute force your way through. Avenging Spirit's really cool, and I actually bought the limited run reproduction of it.
The glow in the dark cartridge, right?
Which glows in the dark. So that should tell you all you need to know.
That is cool.
It has a glow in the dark limited run cartridge release.
I mean, this is $100 Game Boy cart. Like for the original.
Yeah,
100
super
100
expensive.
plus.
So right before the eShop goes down for 3DS, buy that on eShop and check it
Yeah,
out.
I'm gonna do that tonight. Actually, that's a good call.
That's a great pitch for this game. I'm intrigued. It's got the Space Station Silicon Valley mechanic. I can't not play it. It's got the Geist mechanic.
Yeah. So we're kind of split across 3 games here.
We need Adam and Liam to weigh in.
Yeah. Adam, do you want to go? Or you want me to take it?
Oh, I wish you guys could see what I see.
I'm holding up all my Kirby games. So
You have Return to Dreamland?
I think we all know who the original possessing another character mechanic belongs to, and it's Kirby. And
He doesn't even do that in this game.
He doesn't do that in this
true
game.
at all. In this
He just eats things and spits them out.
It's a
in
good
Dreamland.
call out, but
Even
it's
so.
just, okay, it
Even
was a
so.
segue. It was a segue.
Okay,
it is
segue.
a very good segue.
How many Mega Man games have we already talked about?
It wasn't a good segue. It was just a segue.
So good. I love it. I love this show so much.
It's a free podcast.
Wait, it's free?
Yeah. Free 99.
Oh, I want my money back.
I want
No.
my money back. I'm going with Kirby.
Kirby. Let's go.
Oh my god.
Liam.
So,
You've got a decision to make, buddy. And then we have a battle royale. If not.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how this needs to play out here because Philip, I like you a lot. I spent a lot of time playing Kirby's Dream Land. You made an overture to everybody to make sure you played extra game. I did play extra game. This was like I didn't engage with my family at Thanksgiving. I played Kirby's Dream Land. Like I promise you, there's photos, but 6 golden coins is very good. It had a fantastic commercial. Everybody should go find the commercial where Wario's trying to hypnotize you. It hypnotized me. I was enamored with whoever this Wario character was. I loved Mario 3, and part of what Mario 3 did for me was those different worlds, and this I think even did it better, and it was in portable form. The Clockwork Mario, the haunted stages, the underwater, like the different worlds that you had to go to, the progress that you made, because you could go in different order. You didn't have to tackle these sequentially. So you would traverse this overworld and choose which of the 6 lands you wanted to tackle first. And I can't explain to you how fulfilling it felt when you got a coin from a boss and it clicked into place in that castle as you saw like a creepy shadow Wario run across the top. Like it was menacing because you had this new villain that you didn't know who it was. Like you'd had Bowser for so long. It was exciting that there was going to be this reveal and this like creature thing guy, Bizarro Mario. I played this game like a ton. I absolutely adore Mario Land 2. I think it holds up. The sprites are a little big, but it is very, very good. It has to be Mario 2 for me, which means we have a tie between this and Kirby's Dream Land.
Yeah. And no easy concession either.
So I'm wondering, and this is just a spitball, because Sam has the outlier, obviously Avenging Spirit holds as your vote, but do you have a preference between the two?
If I have to pick between the other two, I think I'm ultimately going to give it to Kirby's Dream Land.
All right. So for me, that means Kirby wins.
Okay.
I don't know. How do you feel, Dan? This is.
Look,
you tell me.
I'm cool with the tiebreaker. Obviously, Sam's not going to change his vote, but if you're cool with it, if you guys are cool with that, obviously I voted for Kirby, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we give it to Kirby.
I think we got to give it to Kirby, and I think that Sam just is my favorite person ever. Congrats to Kirby. Congrats to Flightsy for he really did do his due diligence and his work to get everybody on board with Kirby.
100%.
So we got to make sure we honor that.
Lightsy's electioneering prowess should not be understated.
For sure. Yeah. All right, Game Gear. This is an interesting one because we have kind of portable versions of some console games, some games that you may or may never have played before, but we're going to go through them and see what you guys think. Best Game Gear game for your consideration, we have Shinobi 2, The Silent Fury, Streets of Rage, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Axe Battler, A Legend of Golden Axe, Crystal Warriors, and Defenders of Oasis. Now,
who here owned a Game Gear?
I did not.
I didn't own one. I had a friend who had one.
Yeah, I played Bonk on one once. Anybody here currently own a Game Gear?
No, I have all of the ROMs on my EverDrive. So
I have all of these Game Gear games, but Defenders of Oasis, and I have the Game Gear adapter for my analog pocket. Yeah. So
there you go.
All right. So it sounds like this is a Dan and John vote.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've recently played Legend of Golden Axe, Legend of Golden Axe, which is like such a cool game, you guys. It's like one part Dragon Warrior, one part side-scrolling beat-em-up fighter, and I would give it to Golden Axe, honestly. Like, it's not your normal Golden Axe game. It's like Golden Axe RPG.
That is one that I've been curious to try if I ever get the chance.
That was the only game I fired up.
It is interesting how hard Sega tried to make Golden Axe like a giant franchise when in the end it seems to me like people really only remember like the standard beat 'em up and maybe the, Golden Axe 2, I guess, but
yeah, and this is me voting. This is me voting over Sonic.
I do at least have Crystal Warriors and Defenders of Oasis. Those are games I own that I've played very little of.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't terribly impressed with either one, to be honest. Like they feel like standard RPGs. Like they're not bad, but they feel like, why would you play this if you had Dragon Warrior, kind of things.
Yeah. That's why I think I prefer Golden Axe, because it's different enough and it still has your RPG stats and your overworld and all that. But it does enough different that I really appreciate. And this is me voting over Sonic here, so. Anybody else want to chime in? Sam, do you have a vote or not?
Well, I mean, if I'm allowed to vote for a game I've never played over one that I have, Axe Battler, sure.
Yeah.
That is probably the game I most want to play on this list.
Yeah, I'd go with that too. I mean, I've never played any of these, but it does sound cool. I like the Golden Axe series.
Yeah.
I'm also going Axe Battler.
Yeah.
I actually got this game from who was it? My mind just totally went blank. Eric. I got this from Eric Plunk.
Oh, yeah. Good deal. Good deal.
Very good game.
Adam, do you have a horse in this race?
Yeah, I'm going with Shinobi.
Okay.
I love Shinobi.
Shinobi's
How do you not love Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden? Give me all the ninja games. Ninja 5-0. I love it.
All right.
Any ninja game. I'm all about it. Shinobi 2, final answer.
Let's go. Well, best Game Gear game goes to Axe Battler, A Legend of Golden Axe on the Game Gear. Congratulations. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, guys, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got genre-specific awards, best platformer, action game, adventure game, beat 'em up, all that good stuff coming up right after this. And we're back. We're going to jump into some genre-specific awards, and starting us off is Best Platformer. And boy, oh boy, do we have some platformers for you. So, how we determined what a platformer is this is a game that has a core objective of moving a player between points, and platform games are characterized by levels that consist of uneven terrain suspended from platforms. The challenge comes from platforming, not from necessarily shooting or dodging or anything like that. And this is the highest quality game in that category. So here are your nominations for consideration. There's quite a few of them, so listen up. Joe and Mac for the SNES Genesis. Hook for the SNES/Genesis. Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy, Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, Kid Chameleon for Genesis, Sonic 2 for Genesis, Bucky O'Hare for Genesis, Monster in My Pocket for NES, Mick Kids for NES, Darkwing Duck for NES, and New Adventure Island for TurboGrafx. It's a good list. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, I mean,
here?
this is a lot of things to bounce around with.
Yeah.
I mean, I can start. I'm gonna vote for Bucky O'Hare. It's such a weird game. It's not gonna win, and that's okay. I loved and still love this game. I think it is an outstanding platformer. I think it had a lot of really cool Mega Man-esque level design. The music rips, and alternating between characters was really cool. Like you would rescue a character in each planet. You start off with like your standard platformer guy, and then you get a guy with a wall sticking ability that you can swap in for, and you got to like unlock power boosts. It had so much going for it. This Bucky O'Hare was a very short-lived TV cartoon series. I think it had like 12 episodes. Had comic book series. It had toys, of which I have gone down to a dark place in buying. It's just, there's just something fun about the group of animals flying around the universe in a ship called the Righteous Indignation, battling the Toad Menace. It is so freaking fun. It's a punishing kind of platformer, but it does enough to string you along. And yeah, that's my vote. Bucky O'Hare.
I want to get into some Bucky O'Hare.
It's very expensive, and it's never been re-released. It's one of those games where like I have it from when I was a kid, and I went on to Game Eye when you introduced me to it 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, wait, what? This is worth what?
Oh my gosh.
It's a very expensive cart. Yeah, it's crazy. So rom it up.
Okay. Yes. Good pitch for Bucky O'Hare. I think we're going to get some Bucky O'Hare.
It's Konami
interest.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What does somebody else have before I go? I don't want to spoil my maybe obvious answer.
No, you
here.
should
Sonic love. Yeah,
I'm gonna go Sonic the Hedgehog. It's gonna be Sonic the Hedgehog. The only other one I considered here was Kirby again, but it's not really a great. It's not really a great platformer, is it? It's kind of just flying
well, okay. So yeah, you're tracking with me then.
Yeah.
Because I just said for best Game Boy, I would take Kirby over Super Mario Land.
Yeah.
And I would actually give the best platformer to Super Mario Land 2 here. I think that as a platformer, it excels. I can see why you'd put Kirby in the category, but Kirby is not really about platforming.
No,
too much.
it's more puzzles.
There's still parts of it there. There's parts where you got to like float through spike tunnels and things.
And I think we have the core objective being moving the player from one point to another. And there is traversal, and there's mazes, and there's puzzles. So that's the best way I can put it. That's the best genre I can attach it to.
Yeah, you're always gonna have to stretch.
Yeah.
Genres are tricky.
But you're going.
I get why it's here.
You're going
I'm gonna
Mario.
go Super Mario Land 2.
Got you. All right. What else we got? John, what do you got?
I'm gonna go Super.
Mo, you're super quiet and you just like ducked out. Come back. All right. We'll wait for John to come back. Adam, are you here?
I'm here.
All right. Go, Adam. Best platformer.
So I love me some Darkwing Duck. Bucky O'Hare, I have not played. And honestly, like my first introduction to Bucky O'Hare was watching Liam stream the game.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, but I haven't played it. So I've never been a fan of the Super Mario Land series. It doesn't work for me as it probably does for other people. I never owned my first Game Boy was Game Boy Color. So I missed out on like that whole generation of original Game Boy games. So for me, it kind of ends up being between Darkwing Duck, Sonic 2, and Kirby's Dream Land. I agree that it's difficult to call Kirby a platformer. And if it's honestly between Darkwing Duck and Sonic 2, for pure platforming fun, I honestly think Sonic takes it.
All right. We just gotta wait for John to come back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you
guys
are.
hear me all right?
I hear you.
Okay.
Don, don't let Sonic take this category. That's a shame upon us all.
What I was trying to say is probably Super Mario Land 2 here as well, just like I did on Game Boy.
We got a Sonic versus Mario tie.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I want to hear from John. We got to hear from John first.
Yeah.
To me, like, this is probably the best platformer on the Game Boy, like, period. And honestly, to me, like, Sonic is not as much of a platformer as it is like the whole objective for you is to not platform and to go as fast as you can. Like, try to. I know in the first game they tried to make it more platforming, but to me, like, and I think that's like how we get Sonic Spinball, but like Sonic 2 has a lot of like levels where you're just kind of like bouncing off of things. Like, there's just a lot going on in that game. To me, it's not as much about platforming as it is just exploring and going fast. But yeah, no, I think I have to go Super Mario Land 2 on this one. It feels more genuinely like a platformer because, I mean, obviously it's Mario. It's kind of what he does, especially at this time.
So do we need Liam to break the tie here?
I'm.
Yes, that's it.
I want to hear what Liam has to say before I say what I have to say. Go ahead, Liam.
I think that I had a lot of fun playing Sonic 2 at Ryan Beaver's house. But I was not inspired to buy a Genesis off of it. And I think John is spot on. I think Super Mario for the Game Boy is probably the best platformer I played on that console, and is an outstanding platformer.
Okay.
And that would get my vote between the two.
If you didn't go there, I was going to concede the win to Mario. It feels right letting Mario win something this year.
Yeah, and to be totally transparent, like most of my Super Mario Land experience is coming from the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I played.
The second game is a big improvement. On
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah, it's way different.
It's the difference
Yeah.
between Mario 1 and Mario 3 on the NES. Really.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
It's
Honestly.
the
And
difference
honestly,
between
like as much as
Sonic
I do,
1 and Sonic 2.
That's
so,
fair
like,
too.
so as much as I like Sonic 2, I'm not going to like throw myself upon the mercy of the court and like plead for it.
Right.
It's not good enough for that.
No,
and not impactful enough for that.
It feels right letting Mario Land 2 win Best Platformer this year. Feels right. I feel okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I would even like, as just like I have trouble calling Kirby's Dream Land a platformer, I can see people being like, "Is Sonic a platformer? It does other things. It's hard to."
No,
nail
that's a
stuff down,
good.
yeah.
That's a really good point.
So awesome, Best Platformer, Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Good job, guys. All right, so Best Action Game, another long list here. We've got an action game emphasizes physical challenges, including hand-eye coordination, time reaction, special consideration given to shooting and avoiding projectiles on action games here. So we have Mega Man 2 for Game Boy, Mega Man 3 for Game Boy, Batman Returns for Sega Genesis, SNES, Game Boy, Game Gear, Captain America and the Avengers for Genesis and Super Nintendo, Alicia Dragoon, I hope I'm saying that right, for Genesis. Bucky O'Hare. That should not.
Probably not. Yeah, let's get that out of there.
Mega Man 5 for NES.
I promise I didn't do that.
I don't know who did that one too. Contra Force for NES. Contra 3, The Alien Wars for SNES. And Super Smash TV. Super Smash TV was a nomination by Tim from the Nintendo Dads. So thank you, Tim. Yep. Lots of love there. So, a good list. Solid list. Best action game.
Yeah.
So I'll start off by saying that I did make sure to play Elysia Dragoon. What was it? Sunday night, just a little bit before we recorded this, because it was out this year, because it's a pretty well-regarded game, and because it's on NSO and it's easy enough to play and check out. I'd been pretty curious about it. I'd heard good things. I was ultimately not that impressed. It's just one of those games that is not for me. It really bothers me that your main method of attack is just auto-aimed. I don't like that. I think it just takes too much control away from the player. But you know, it's cool that it's on here, I guess. It does some interesting things all the same with having different pets and stuff. It's a cool concept. I just didn't really enjoy playing it. I have to go with Mega Man 5. I mean, I love me some Mega Man. Contra 3, I think, deserves a mention too, but I never really vibed with Contra 3 as well as I did with Contra on the NES or Super C. It's got like only 2 good levels in it, it feels like.
I'm looking at this list and I'm going down and I'm like, I don't really care about any of these except for Super Smash TV.
Wow.
Which I have really fond memories of multiplayer, crazy, like, I mean, that game has character, like, up the wazoo. That game is just a story to behold. Like, the game show concept and just the, like, it's not even, it's almost like a dystopian game show is what it is. But, you know, it's covered over by this, like, fun, you know, cheery game that you're playing. Great co-op. I think I'm going Super Smash TV for this, which feels weird because there's lots of great games here, but none of them are really calling to me.
So, looking at this list, like, we need to move Captain America and the Avengers down to best beat 'em up.
Oh, is that beat 'em up?
Batman too, actually. Yeah, I'm
Batman
going to move
Returns.
both of those down there.
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say the same thing.
Yep.
So I just moved this.
Thank you guys for helping.
Because if not, I would have voted for that. It just doesn't belong there.
Mostly Sam and I
that
making
one
this
being-
list. So
Yeah, I was gonna say. With that being said, I will probably side with Sam. I believe Mega Man is probably the best. Mega Man 5 is probably the best action game on this list.
probably deserves to win, honestly. I don't have any real experience with that. Adam, Liam, come on guys, what do you got?
Yeah, I never played Super Smash TV. It sounds awesome, but I have the experience with these two Game Boy games, then Mega Man 5 and Contra 3. Was never a Contra guy. It is very cool. I think it's a very good game. It's also like we're talking about the golden age, I feel like, of Konami. There's so much Konami on this list in this 1 year. But I'm going to go Mega Man as well. I like Mega Man 5.
All right. Okay, Adam.
Well, I love me some Mega Man. I love me some Contra. But I don't think any of the Mega Man or Contra games on this list do much for the action game genre. They were a little bit just more of the same as far as their respective franchises go. I was moving in this direction before Dan said anything, but
Yes.
if I had all these games in front of me and I had to keep one, it has to be Super Smash TV, because I already have Mega Man 2, 3, and 4. So if it came down to owning 5 and owning Super Smash TV, I'm going with that. I'm going with Super Smash TV. I love... wasn't Darkwing Duck on here a minute ago, or did that get moved?
We already considered it for platformer.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, with that also out of the running, then for me, it's a very easy decision to go with Super Smash TV.
Big bro coming in clutch. Unfortunately, we have 3
For
votes
real,
for
though,
Mega Man.
it's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so fun co-op. Like, you just got to do it.
Is it expensive?
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
maybe
so.
$20. Yeah.
Oh, I got to get that then.
And the sequel is called, somebody help me out.
Total Carnage?
Yes, Total Carnage.
Wow.
Man, those two
Was that
games.
right?
Carnage?
Yeah, Maximum
Not
Carnage, Total
Maximum
Carnage.
Carnage.
I think it's Total Carnage.
No,
No,
Maximum
Maximum-
Carnage is a Spider-Man game.
Yeah, no. I'm
Yes.
99%
Yeah.
sure it's Total Carnage.
It's definitely Total Carnage, and it's awesome.
That's $35, Dan.
Total
That's-
Carnage?
I guess I could spend $35 on Super Smash TV.
It's 35.
Yeah.
it's worth it.
I mean, it's worth
All
it,
right.
but I thought it was cheaper than that. Oh well.
You could probably get it for cheaper than that.
Well, best action game this year goes to Mega Man 5 with a close second, Super Smash TV. Sorry, Tim. I fought for you, but what you gonna do? Mega Man's gonna mega.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Mega Man
Yeah.
is just pure excellence
It deserves
at the
it.
peak of its form, and that, you know what I mean? There's no way I'm going to argue against Mega Man.
Now, I have a question for you guys. Is there any way that Link to the Past doesn't win Best Adventure Game?
No.
No.
No, and this is such an odd collection. Newtopia 2, Echo the Dolphin, A Link to the Past, and Indiana Jones, The Fate of Atlantis. Nobody, like, you're not going to see this on any store shelf or on any collector's shelf, for that matter, this smattering of games.
It's a
let's just
Zelda
give it
game?
A Link to the Past.
It's a Zelda game,
Spoilers, but only
a dolphin sim,
Only
a
one of-
point-and-click adventure, and a Zelda
Yeah.
ripoff.
Yeah.
only one of these is also up for Game of the Year. So you know.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna
Kinda
give it to Link to
for
the Past by
consistency's
default.
sake.
Yeah. Don't even need a conversation. I will say, like, if I were to have to vote, be overruled anyway, I'd go Echo the Dolphin. Because of my lack of experience with Link to the Past, but also because Echo the Dolphin feels genuinely like a really good adventure when you start getting into it, despite its inherent difficulty. Fate of Atlantis is also really fun, but yeah, obviously that's going to Link to the Past. Let's do beat 'em up, guys. Gosh, beat 'em up list grew overnight. Let's see what we got here. So beat 'em up is a video game genre featuring hand-to-hand combat against a large number of opponents. That's kind of what we're basing our genre on. We have X-Men Arcade, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Those are both arcade. TMNT Hyperstone Heist for Genesis. Toxic Crusaders. Streets of Rage 2 for Genesis. TMNT 3 Manhattan Project for NES. Legend of the Mystical Ninja for SNES. TMNT Turtles in Time for SNES. Batman Returns. And Captain America and the Avengers for Genesis and SNES.
Toxic Crusaders. Oh my god, I forgot that even existed. What a weird cartoon series. They were toys. That's another one that just had maybe 12 episodes. It was something.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was all
a
part of.
Game.
Yeah, it was all part of that like
It was a TV show
Teenage
too.
Mutant Ninja Turtle adjacent.
Yeah.
Like.
But it's also
wannabe
another one of those, giant like kid franchises that spun off of a very, not kid friendly movie.
But how did it
Exactly.
happen? How did it all happen at once is what I'm understanding. Because it's the same thing as Bucky O'Hare, where there was like toys, game, TV show, everything, like a 6-month blitz,
Turtles.
and then the whole thing.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Everything
Well, no,
wanted to be the next Turtles.
but everything
Yeah,
collapsed.
it was
It's
all
so
turtles.
crazy.
It started with turtles, and then everybody wanted their own version of it. It's just some did better than
Well,
others.
Just like how every movie wants to be a cinematic universe. now.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I feel like Toxic Avenger was also kind of in that same vein of like not early 90s like Captain Planet, Fern Gully, like environmentalism push.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it kind of moved out from the B movie schlock silliness to the, hey, we could use this to sell environmentalism to kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh.
And the good news is that Captain Planet helped us curb global warming, and now we're fine, right? So everything's cool.
Absolutely.
Kind
Yeah.
of.
Good.
So when are we getting the Toxic Avenger remake?
Yeah. Toxic, I will say it's not going to win, but Toxic Crusaders is genuinely a really fun beat 'em up if you have a chance to play it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Sam.
I do think we need to maybe discuss if Legend of Mystical Ninja qualifies. It does. It is a blend of genres.
I think I had it under
All
adventure
right.
first.
There's no
Yeah.
and like that almost fits, but like so there's top down segments where you do it plays a lot like a beat 'em up. Other than there aren't really combos, you just kind of have one attack that you just hit things with. But there are also platforming sections, and there's also a whole bunch of mini games. That's a whole thing with the Gomon series is there's lots of mini games. I don't remember if it's the first game or not, but usually there is an entire other Konami game you can play within the game. I think in the first game it's Gradius. You can just go to this carnival and play Gradius. But yeah, I love Legend of the Mystical Ninja, so I kind of want to vote for it, but I'm not sure if it's really. I guess by the criteria I used for Kirby versus Mario Land, I would say we can put it in the category, but it's not the best at beating them up, right? So
It's more at
it does not have
at
it
adventuring.
does not excel at beat 'em upness
Mm-hmm.
the way some of these other games do.
Yeah. Okay.
I do want to give a shout out to Cadillacs and Dinosaurs too, real quick, because I've looked at Let's Plays of it. It actually does look really cool, and it has something it does that does set it apart a little bit more. Is there's actually a lot of like projectile weapon pickups, which you don't usually see in beat 'em ups. There's like a lot of like guns and bombs and flamethrowers and stuff. So that's really cool. It is criminally not in the Capcom beat 'em up bundle, and it should have been.
Why?
So give us a Capcom beat 'em up bundle 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess
Just release it.
they got the arcade thing now that they're doing. So Cadillacs and Dinosaurs needs to come to that because it's a Capcom game. Yeah, it's pretty much between Turtles, Streets of Rage, and X-Men for me. And I have a hard time picking.
Yeah, that.
I really want to go Streets of Rage though.
Yeah,
Well, why don't you put it on
So I
Streets
think
of Rage? and we'll see
I'm
how
gonna
it
go
goes.
with my gut. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with my gut and say Streets of Rage 2. That is,
yeah.
like this would be easy. Ultimately,
Sorry.
other than the fact that it has 6-player, I don't think I'd go with X-Men. So it's really Streets of Rage or Turtles for me. And it's like, because Turtles is the game I played with my brothers all the time growing up. And Streets of Rage 2 is actually the game that I kind of like reconnected with my oldest brother with on the Wii Virtual Console after he came back from college. So it's like there's heavy nostalgia for both. Even though they came out at the separate time, they're at different times in my life when I was playing them. So it's just like, and I think I give entirely personal bias, but I give the weight to Streets of Rage 2 just because that is so much rarer to have that connection later in your life. So that's like more precious.
All right.
I was on the same boat as you, Sam, where I was going back and forth between Turtles in Time and Streets of Rage 2. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but between those two games, like the actual like playing of them, not to oversimplify them, but Turtles in Time sometimes feels a little bit simplistic. Whereas
Streets of Rage gives you your special attacks, your forward attack.
Streets
stuff
of Rage
that you can cancel into.
like borders on fighting game like moves and specials and stuff like that, which I really appreciate. I'm having a really hard time too, like kind of like my gut says Turtles, but I just want to go Streets of Rage 2 because of like just the insane level of polish on that game and quality and music and my love for Sega. So I think I'm following Sam here with Streets of Rage 2.
All right. I have a sweet spot for Batman Returns, another Konami game. This environments that you can destroy, you can pick up and toss enemies. A lot of cool gadgets. There's some like odd platforming parts where you need to use the grappling bat hook thing. There's some racing portions of the game, but ultimately is a really solid beat 'em up. I don't think that it takes this though. I'll also shout out, since I am waving a Bucky O'Hare banner, that there was a second game that was also released in '92 in the arcades, separate from the NES game, that is a sort of beat 'em up, shoot 'em up Bucky O'Hare Konami brawler.
Whoa.
That is very cool as well, and the graphics on that are really dope.
Man, they went hard with Bucky O'Hare. What the heck?
I know, it's wild, and it's a very fun game, but that also doesn't warrant anything here. I think I'm gonna go Turtles in Time. I didn't have a Genesis. I played a little Streets of Rage, but Turtles in Time. Manhattan Project was my initial Turtles game in this window, but I ultimately came to appreciate Turtles in Time so much.
Yeah, I'd be happy with either one of those winning. Adam, what do you think?
John, where you at? Oh.
Either one.
So it's kind of weird. I have a lot of memories playing Captain America and the Avengers. I know it's not it's not a top tier beat 'em up, but it was a lot of fun, and like I just remember playing multiplayer in it, and it was always a lot of fun. Streets of Rage 2 is really good, but I haven't put as much time into it as I have Turtles in Time, so I'm probably gonna go with Liam and do some Turtles in Time.
Sweet. Yeah, solid. Adam, you've got a tiebreaker on your hands.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not even a contest. It has to be Turtles in Time.
Right on.
It's arguably like the best console Turtles beat 'em up. It's the music is fantastic. It's gorgeous. It's I don't know that Streets of Rage 2 is the best Streets of Rage.
I think it is.
To me,
After 4, only after 4. I definitely think it's better than 3, and it's way better than 1.
I don't have a ton of experience with Streets of Rage. It's fun to me, but it's not like this defining experience. At least in my opinion, there's no way I can't vote for Turtles in Time on this one.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah,
Couldn't
that's
do
solid. That's solid. And I mean, honestly, again, like I'd be happy with either of them. I love both of them. Turtles in Time, obviously, like I said earlier, just like one of my favorite multiplayer experiences on the Super Nintendo. So congrats to Turtles in Time for best beat 'em up. Well deserved, I think. All right. Moving on to best RPG. We all know what an RPG is. I don't have to go into that. But we are talking about Axe Battler, A Legend of Golden Axe for Game Gear, Crystal Warriors for Game Gear, Defenders of Oasis for Game Gear, Dragon Warrior 4 for the NES, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest for the SNES, and Soul Blazer for the SNES.
Can I just say how it's really strange to me that the Game Gear has the most nominees in this category?
Yeah, that is very funny.
Just in this year, man.
Great for the Game Gear this year.
Yeah.
It's just, I maybe it's because of my limited experience. I never think, oh yes, the Game Gear, that RPG heavy system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very interested to hear what Sam has to say here. And the reason being, I discovered Soul Blader with a D, and Soul Blazer as it was released in the US, because of Sam. Sam would talk about this company called Quintet, and I kind of became enamored with some of the stuff that he talked about with Terranigma and Illusion of Gaia, and I discovered that there was that trilogy, right? And Soul Blazer, this ridiculously expensive cart, was the make, like the final trifecta of that. And I played through that last year for the first time, and I loved my time with it. But I'm wondering if the Quintet love that Sam has extends to this game, or if it's somewhere else.
It's definitely my front runner, but unfortunately, I haven't played it because the cartridge is expensive.
Right.
I don't really have a way to play it, so that is what it is. But kind of like what I said about the Game Gear games before, on the basis of games I want to play the most, Soul Blazer is it. I and even Terranigma had its frustrations with me. But I know, like, from my experience with Quintet, like, I know it will be interesting. Yeah. Without a doubt. Like it may have some rough patches, just like Terranigma had like weird difficulty spikes and weird grind level gates that probably imply cut content. Soul Blazer, and it's definitely more of an action RPG, as all of Quintet's stuff is. You could look at it and be like, oh, well, this plays a lot more like Zelda, but
it does, yeah.
For most people, it's an RPG because there's experience points and you level up.
Yep.
That's the difference for a lot of people, and you know what? If we have to draw a line there, so be it. Most people are comfortable calling it RPG, and Zelda not.
Yeah. So the game has, the problem that I had with the game ultimately was that there are a few obtuse moments where, like, if you didn't follow a certain dialogue train to talk to a dog or a squirrel in the right order, you could get a little turned around. The purpose of the game,
sounds like a Quintet game.
Yeah, the purpose of the game is like you're freeing souls. You've come down to Earth and things are devastated, and you're working through these levels and you're destroying these like boss or these creature generator hubs, and each time you destroy a creature generator hub, it frees a soul, and then you can interact with that. And sometimes it's a talking flower, and sometimes it's the person who works at the mill in the village. But it's such an oddball game. The combat is very good, and it's lengthy enough, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The boss fights are pretty balanced. So I mean, I have to vote. I have to vote with this one. And I'll say, Sam, like, I have questionable moral like codes when it comes to this. So I bought the Japanese version of it for like $20 complete in cart, and I was like, well, I own it, so I can play a ROM of it now, even though it's the English ROM and I own the Japanese Super Famicom version. The album art is also, or the box art is super rad for the Japanese version. So I would strongly suggest finding a way to play this game, because it is very fun.
Well, how much is the PAL version? Because that's what I did with Terranigma.
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. But anybody else have a dog in the race for RPG?
Oh yeah. I want to shout out Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. This game kind of usually gets overshadowed by Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo. It's a very I don't want to say like it's not an easy like beginner's RPG, but it's very watered down compared to other Final Fantasy games. But I definitely think that this is a tough one between Axe Battler and Dragon Warrior 4.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna have to take Dragon Warrior on this one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I'm going back and forth between those two as well, John. I'm actually going to go Axe Battler. I mean, I've never played 4 specifically, and as much as I enjoy the early Dragon Warriors, I've actually played and really like Legend of Golden Axe, so that just has to be where I go with this. Soul Blazer, I don't even know. That's like on a different planet. I don't even understand that that's a game. Never heard of it.
It's an Enix game. It's
okay.
a merger.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, did you land somewhere?
Yeah, Soul Blazer, man.
Sam landed on Soul
that's where
Blazer.
I'm at.
Okay. All right, Adam, what do you got?
I mean, it's really hard not to go with Soul Blazer. I don't have any personal experience with Dragon Warrior 4.
How does
Mystic
everybody
Quest,
know what Soul Blazer is? Did you know what Soul Blazer was before this podcast?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's a
How?
pretty well-known game. Is it not a well-known game?
Not by me.
I know about it because of Sam, and I don't
It's
even
not
know if he's
Donkey
ever
Kong.
talked about it.
There you go. There you go. It's the retrologic effect.
It is the
It is.
Retrologic effect.
It has come for you.
I mean,
Man,
I feel like I was aware of it, prior to any potential retrologic effect, but what I was getting at with Mystic Quest is it's a good game and it doesn't deserve the negativity surrounding it, but I don't think it's RPG of the Year material.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I feel like Soul Blazer has to be it.
All right. Well, Soul Blazer,
And-
best RPG for 1992.
I almost thought we made a mistake because I was thinking that Evo Search for Eden came out in 92, but I guess it was 93. So it still has a chance for next year.
Next year we'll get
year.
it. Yeah.
It's gonna be so good.
Awesome. Congrats, Soul Blazer, a game that I just learned existed.
Check it out. You should. Yeah, I think you'll like it.
Okay. Is it on NSO?
No, I don't think it's been
It's
re-released
not anywhere. It's not anywhere, and it's expensive because
All
of
right.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even on Steam.
somebody wants to lend me their copy. We'll see.
I did check. The PAL version's still like 100.
Yeah.
Best shooter, guys. So we kind of lumped shmups in with Wolfenstein and Lethal Enforcers here because there's not a lot of any one of those genres to really make
Wait
an
a
award.
minute.
What?
How did Sewer Shark get in here?
Isn't that a shooter? You don't shoot things?
It's kind of an on-rails shooter of sorts.
Yeah, it was described as a rail shooter to me by Wikipedia.
Well, it's not going to win, so we'll let it have let it have its day. Okay, best shooter: Air Zonk, Soldier Blade, Lethal Enforcers, Sewer Shark, or Wolfenstein 3D. So it's kind of weird to pit Soldier Blade against Wolfenstein 3D, but I feel like that's where we're at now. What would
I mean, yeah, it's kind of apples to oranges, but you know what? I'll stand up for Soldier Blade.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like it's going to ultimately go to Wolfenstein 3D, but
yeah.
I mean, it's a weird pairing, but I'm going to go Wolfenstein.
I'm also going Wolfenstein.
I think I have to go Wolfenstein too. I mean, I like Soldier Blade, but it's kind of hard.
It runs more to my tastes. I've never liked first-person shooters, so this category will be interesting in years to come.
Yeah, it's going to evolve over the years and then probably split again when there's more options. Adam, what do you think?
At some point, shmups will leave.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm going Wolfenstein just because that's, huge chunk of my life was dedicated to Wolfenstein and Wolf Edit in the early days of PC first-person shooters. And there's really... I know it's weird to pit it against the, this side-scrolling or space shoot-'em-up games, but even more so than it's hard to say for sure, but at least the way that I perceived it is that Doom kind of took what Wolfenstein did and just kind of gave it more mass appeal, I guess. But Wolfenstein is really what moved the technology forward to make the first person shooter genre a viable thing.
Yeah, it was right, and then after that it was like Quake, and things just kept moving faster and faster. So,
well, I hopped from Wolfenstein on the Mac to the Marathon series.
Oh, Marathon, yeah.
Yeah, which people might know was developed
Halo.
by
Bungie.
an early Bungie. So without Marathon, there's no Halo.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
That was my trajectory, but it all comes back to Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
15 years from now, this whole list is going to be like Call of Duty.
I know, yeah.
I know.
Hey guys, let's talk puzzle games. We have 2 puzzle games that are going to battle it out in death match for the supreme puzzle game. We have Yoshi for NES and Game Boy up against none other than Hatris.
What is Tetris?
Hatris.
Is it Tetris with hats?
This is like back when Tetris was so big that people were making their own dumb spin-offs.
No. Is it really? I was joking.
It has nothing to do with Tetris at all. It doesn't play like Tetris.
Actually, correction, Dan. It is made by the guy who invented Tetris.
No way.
No.
Yeah. It's developed by Alexei Pajitnov.
That's really surprising because Hatris is so dumb. It's not. It's so weird. It's like patterned hats. You have to match them. I don't know.
Right. But
Anyway.
Dan, how do you feel about the character Yoshi? Are you a Yoshi fan?
I'm pro Yoshi. Yeah.
You're pro Yoshi.
I like the character Yoshi. I never really cared much for the game Yoshi.
Oh, Adam's got it.
Hey, there it is.
I just bought.
But I suppose compared to Hatris, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I prefer when Yoshi hops in the kitchen and starts baking.
Yeah.
But I believe that's next year that we get some cookies.
Yeah.
But I think Yoshi takes this, right?
Yeah, John, are you going to go Hatris?
No, I don't think so. I was trying to see if. No, I think that was a Japanese only game. Never mind.
Yoshi Sweep on the
Yoshi
puzzle game.
wins.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry,
Congratulations,
Hattress.
Yoshi.
Maybe next year. Maybe not. Maybe
Great
never.
game.
Okay. Best strategy game. Best strategy game. We have 4 games in the running here this year. We have Shining Force for the Genesis, Rampart for the NES, Lords of the Rising Sun for the TurboGrafx, and Aerobiz for the Genesis. Is that also Super Nintendo?
The Super Nintendo port of Aerobiz did not come out until '93.
Oh, weird.
So Genesis only
Okay.
for consideration here. And I think Super Sonic came out on both, like the year after that.
I'm going to go first. I have a strong attachment to the game Rampart. It's just kind of like, it's like you got a little bit of Tetris, you got a little bit of Warlords, you got a little bit of Pong. It's just sort of like a beautiful mesh of other games that makes a wholly different experience.
Yeah.
And it's tons of fun, tons and tons of fun. Highly recommend it. I'm going Rampart. If you haven't played it, you got to with a friend.
I'm gonna second you on that. My neighbors had that, and I didn't understand what was going on for a while. But once it clicked,
Yeah.
like once it actually clicked, and I figured out what he was doing, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I want this." Yeah.
It's kind of one of those. It has that addiction appeal where it's like, all right, just one more game. We gotta build the fort back up. We gotta go again.
Right.
Yeah. Adam, what do you got?
I'm with you on Rampart.
Right.
I have no reason to pick any of the others.
Wow.
Okay, John,
I've never even played this.
you never played Rampart?
This
No.
feels like a Sam game. Honestly, it's weird, but I do feel like you would like this, Sam, because
very
you play
puzzling.
those tactical civilization-y kind of games too. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have an NES, so there's anything that's like more.
It's on
obscure.
It's on Super.
Yeah,
Nintendo
it's on Super Nintendo.
It's on
It's
Super
and Game Boy
Nintendo,
Color.
GBA. It's been on
I'll have to look
GameCube in
for
the
it.
Midway collection. I know. Yeah.
There's the Game Boy Color version too. I think I'm gonna have to go Shining Force just because I've played it, even though that's, could be considered, a few different genres. I think the strategy game works here as well.
Once again, I respect the choice for Shining Force. It's really between the 2 Genesis games for me. I'm going to go with Aerobiz, though. It is something, it does, bear mentioning that, at a time when the Super Nintendo was not getting a lot of those, especially like the strategy RPGs that, Sega was providing Shining Force and and stuff like Warsong as well, around the same time. When, Nintendo was looking at Fire Emblem like, nah, this just won't play overseas. I guess maybe they were looking at the sales these games were getting and saying, nah, it's not worth it. I don't know. It's a shame because I would hope that, something like Shining Force would do well enough to say, get us more of that. But all the same, I go with Aerobiz. It's definitely a different kind of strategy game from most of these others, but I like it for that reason. It's actually ultimately pretty accessible. Like, as long as you keep playing, like you tend to keep growing. Like you'll hit a ceiling eventually if the AI is playing well against you, if it's set to a high difficulty, or if the other players are playing against you. And it has that capability too for pass play, since it's just entirely turn based. Making decisions. So I think it's that's a big thing for strategy games in general, is they're often inaccessible. And I think even though Aerobiz is like the least like exciting up for like I want to manage an airline, it's probably the quickest to understand out of a lot of things in the genre. You're like, okay, yeah, I need to, set up airports in different places. I need to, buy more planes. Sure, like it just immediately makes sense because it's connected to something that is pretty immediately logical in people's minds, I would think. So yeah, Aerobiz.
Okay,
Love
cool.
Aerobiz.
Yeah, it's going to get another consideration, I think, for innovation, maybe down below, maybe Underdog. I think it's down there somewhere.
From Koei's seldom localized executive series.
There you go.
To my knowledge, there is one other game in that series that got released outside Japan. And it is Pop Fashion Simulation.
Oh, cool.
For the DS.
Best strategy game goes to Rampart. Warms my heart to see Rampart on the get a trophy here. All right, we're gonna wrap things up with best racing game. And I don't really see this going any other way but towards Mario Kart, but we're going to go anyway. We have Virtua Racing for the arcade, Wave Race on Game Boy, Super Off-Road for Game Boy, and Super Mario Kart for the SNES. Well, who's not voting for Mario Kart?
Yeah, it's Mario Kart.
Yeah.
There's the cart.
There it is. I actually would probably go Super Off-Road. I owned it. I love it. I just don't like this version of Mario Kart. I don't want to play it. It's annoying. But
I don't get why people are so down on Super Mario Kart.
It's hard.
I think it gets unnecessarily. I think it is disproportionately disliked to its actual quality, and by the same token, I think Mario Kart 64 is disproportionately liked compared to its quality.
Yes.
I think they're a lot closer together than most people think.
No. It's Mario Kart. Super Mario Kart is almost unplayable for me. I don't know why. The Mode 7 doesn't make any sense. Everything's like just nothing makes sense. I don't know. I don't know how to drive in that world. It might be a me problem. I'll admit that. So speaking of me problems, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up with our special awards, talking about best soundtrack, underdog, mascot, innovation, multiplayer, and then we'll wrap it up with console of the year and our 1992 Crown Prince game of the year, coming right after this. We are back with our special awards, and we're going to jump right in with our first award, which is Best Soundtrack. We have quite a few games here in consideration. We have Mega Man 5 for NES, Streets of Rage 2 for Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for Genesis, Spanky's Quest for SNES, Turtles in Time for SNES, Link to the Past, Street Fighter 2, Bucky O'Hare, and Echo the Dolphin. I stopped saying the consoles, because I realized everybody knows already at this point what all these games are for.
This is probably the hardest category for me to decide. Yeah. Like, all of these, I think, are really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starting with the NES games, I guess. I did make a point to listen to Bucky O'Hare. Between it and Mega Man 5, I actually think it's better than Mega Man 5. Mega Man 5 good. Does... It really is just that good, for one. But Mega Man 5 does have that problem where, to me at least, there are not as many standout tracks as the previous Mega Man games. It kind of... 4 was the last Mega Man game where I, can probably recognize every Robot Masters stage theme within the first like 10 seconds of it playing. 5, I would have trouble doing that for a lot of them. I think in part because they started to get more ambitious, even because I think those tracks are a little more complicated, and it can be kind of hard to trace the melody especially with the limitations of the NES sound trip. Spanky's Quest absolutely does deserve to be on here. People need to go listen to that. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to win just because there aren't that many tracks. But it has a very distinctive, very funky style that it just owns. So go listen to the Spanky's Quest soundtrack right now. Pause this podcast and listen to Spanky's Quest.
Sweet.
Turtles in Time, I think everybody recognizes. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past did give us a lot of Zelda tracks that would continue into the future of the series. You have the Dark World theme, you have the Hyrule Castle theme, which has started coming back as kind of a motif for the King of Hyrule in particular. You have the Kakariko Village theme started in this game as well. So, I mean, like, Zelda music is just so important that it feels like it deserves it too. And then there's Street Fighter. You know, don't leave Street Fighter out of this. I mean, not just because the Guile theme goes with everything. I mean, you have individual tracks for every fighter that really like capture their personality well. I mean, it's like the best. It's everything Mega Man does well, but on the Super Nintendo. So, yeah, I have a hard time choosing. Somebody else choose first.
Say what you will about Sonic the character. Say what you will. It's fine. It's a very normal thing to feel weird about this character of Sonic. But nobody on Earth can deny the masterful supremacy of how that soundtrack just rips, man. It's pop track after pop track after pop track. Casino Night Zone is just like a swing time, good time every time. I can't in good conscience choose any game on here but Sonic 2.
Well, we also need to talk about Streets of Rage 2. Because that is definitely a standout soundtrack. And to me, it is a standout soundtrack on a system that doesn't have a lot of those. I will admit Sonic is definitely above average for a Genesis.
Well, coming from you, Sam, that's a compliment.
Sound.
So thank you.
as big.
But when we're talking about the Genesis, it's not a compliment. That's the issue.
Coming from you, it is.
I guess the Sega Genesis sound chip has its defenders, but I honestly don't think very highly of it. That makes Streets of Rage 2 all the more impressive because it is like it manages to sound better than a lot of Super Nintendo games. On what I would consider hardware that generally doesn't when it comes to sound in particular. And the other thing too is the Streets of Rage, most of the tracks don't just do a simple loop. Like, and some of it's the style, it does kind of loop, but it's kind of more techno where it'll kind of just, do the same riff and it'll add new stuff in. I actually think I'm going to go Streets of Rage 2 again. I keep pushing for this to win something.
Yeah.
And you guys just aren't biting.
You know what, Sam? I'll join you there. I'll join you over at Streets of Rage. I will join you there as a concession because as much as I love Sonic, I also want to see Streets of Rage win something.
Wow. Well, I'll say that while I definitely Bucky O'Hare is one of my favorite OSTs of that time. I think Yellow Planet it's such a jam. I also think Echo the Dolphin. I don't like that game. Like I really don't like that game.
No, it's not good.
But the atmosphere that the music, like that was the one redeeming thing to me of my time frustratingly trying to flip a dolphin out of the water is like, at least it sounded very good. It was a very good, it was very well fitted to its soundtracking. But I know it kind of feels like a cop-out because of what this game is, but it is crazy to me that we're even discussing this with Link to the Past on here when that game originated some of the most important motifs in the series. Like all of the stuff that Sam mentioned, plus like the fairy cave thing, like all of these things all started there. Everything that we love and associate with Zelda music really originated there outside of the Hyrule main overworld song from the first game. So even though it feels like the obvious answer here, I think the obvious answer for me has to be Link to the Past. That music still hits me. I could listen to it over and over again.
All right. Adam, I think you're following Liam on that one, right?
It's Link. Yeah, you can't hear, if you're listening, you can't see me holding up the Zelda cartridge, but it's Link to the Past. I mean, these other games, Mystic Cave Zone from Sonic 2 is an all-time favorite jam. I will wake up in the morning and randomly have Mystic Cave Zone from Sonic 2 playing in my brain. But
your head's a weird space, dude.
It's a mystic cave up there.
It really is.
It's a Caparello thing. I get that.
But Link to the Past that's the thing. That is the soundtrack of an entire generation of adventurers. And there are so many other games on this list for this category that are very deserving, but they're not up to the level of memorability, quality, fidelity, or there's something to be said about the perpetuation of the motifs as the series moved forward when we're talking about Link to the Past. So it has to be Link to the Past.
Also, the Kirby's Dream Land soundtrack is very good. Flight
Yeah.
I know you're screaming it right now. I agree. Kirby's Dream Land is a very good soundtrack.
Oh yeah, why isn't that on here? I would
Mario,
still go. I would still
even
go
Mario
Sonic.
Land 2 is
Yeah.
a very,
They're both good.
that little do.
Game Boy's
It's
tough
like-
to throw
Yeah.
on a
Yeah, for
soundtrack
sure.
I don't
for anything.
like they're really good for Game Boy games. It's
Yes.
just I don't think even the best Game Boy games can't really compete in
Exactly.
this year.
John's
Also,
got a
is Chemical Plant Sonic 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that song rips.
Man,
That's
so
so good.
every
Yeah,
level
really good.
is a bop on that game, man.
Yeah.
John, you've got a tiebreaker here.
So this probably would have been the one that I would have went Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on, because I really enjoyed that soundtrack
Oh,
as well. But if I have to pick between the two that are here, I will probably go Legend of Zelda as well.
Has
I
to
just
be.
don't have as much experience with Streets of Rage
okay, John.
2 and
John, let me ask you. Let me ask you a
what?
question. If I go Sonic 2, will you go back to
I love
Sonic
this.
2?
Oh, this is good. Do it, and then make Sam choose.
Well, if you make me choose, then I'm choosing Zelda anyway over
Okay.
Sonic, of course.
Okay. So then it doesn't play out.
Zelda wins
Why?
anyway.
Yeah, but
I just
just as a second place, John, would you come over
Oh.
to Sonic Land with me, or are you just stay with Zelda?
oh no, second place is totally Sonic.
Okay, let's do it then. I'm gonna go
I will
Sonic.
acknowledge that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go
Put it in the
Sonic.
books.
John's gonna go Sonic.
So Dan is just cannot be trusted. That's what we've learned.
Hey,
mean,
we're just playing the game here,
Turn his
guys.
back on you right
you
away.
didn't know that this is a tactics game. I don't know what you thought you were playing right now, but this is a tactics game. Best
Here's
tactics
my
game.
here's my
GOTY30.
thing. Here's my thing about like I totally acknowledge the legacy of. I love Zelda. I have no problem with Zelda, and like this is where it all started, and like that's great. And like if this was Ocarina of Time, I could see it being like, oh, the music is like part of the game is the music, and I get that. I have a really hard time turning my back on Sonic 2 because it like everybody was listing off different levels in Sonic 2 that they loved. It's a wide reaching game, and
It's cover to cover.
the music is in Sonic is something that is universally loved despite what you think about Sonic. So it's just difficult for me to see Zelda take another award in this
No, that Zelda is the
That's what
Mario
Zelda
World
does
of last
best.
year.
Yeah, I know. I didn't like Mario World either, so what does that tell you? All right, so Sam, tiebreaker, you're gonna go Zelda.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna stick to what we've been doing, and we're gonna give it to Link to the Past for best soundtrack. So, underdog of the year, eh? Let's talk about that for a second. A game which is broadly unpopular despite its high quality. Considerations for this are based on quality of the game. So here we go. We've got Avenging Spirit, Alicia Dragoon on Genesis, Toxic Crusaders, Aerobiz, Town and Country 2 Thrilla's Safari on NES, Hook on SNES, New Adventure Island, and Spanky's Quest on Super Nintendo.
Hook. Oh my god. Who put Hook on here?
Is that not an underdog?
I guess it is. It looks really good. It's presented really well. I played Hook a bunch.
Is it not good?
It's okay.
I'm going to take it off.
It's fine.
Nobody's going to vote for it anyway.
It's fine.
It's gone. No
It's
more
fair.
Hook.
Okay. I love that movie.
Yeah, good movie. Yep. I don't know who's got a dog in the race. Horse in the race?
mean,
dog in the fight?
I'm excited.
I have two.
Yeah, I know. Sam.
I have two.
Yeah, Sam. I feel like here's where you're gonna play your tactics, Goaty. I feel like let me make my move. You have me very excited about Avenging Spirit, even though I've played Spanky's Quest and I like it. But I think Avenging Spirit is if I'm looking at quality and the underdog and unsung game, this feels like it. So I'm gonna throw in.
Yeah, I mean, the dilemma here is: do I go with the game I like that everybody bashed when it came to NSO because they're ignorant and they didn't play it, which is Spanky's Quest, or do I go with the game I like that nobody talks about because they're ignorant and they didn't play it, which is Avenging Spirit?
Oh my gosh, that's underdog. That's it right there. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, I would say I'm more impressed by the overall quality of Avenging Spirit at the end of the day. I think Spanky's Quest is a fun game.
Yeah.
I mostly just like it because it's bizarre and weird and overlooked. Avenging Spirit, I think, is just overlooked, and it's just a good game. Like, it is pretty weird too. We'll get to that. We have a category for that.
That's right.
So these two games will come up again.
All right. Well, what's the rest of the panel doing?
Yeah, I have I don't know at all. I need somebody else to talk. Liam's going for Avenging Spirit then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going there as well.
Okay. Adam?
I mean, I think that takes it then, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does.
I don't
Adam
really
has any.
have much to say about any. No, I really don't have anything to say here. So.
All right.
Good job, Avenging Spirit.
Yeah,
There you go,
congrats.
Sam.
Yeah, there you go.
Hooray.
You did it.
That's why we have it.
The retro logic effect.
Yeah,
For sure.
Everybody go play it now.
We did it.
Yeah.
Is that an expensive cartridge?
My glow-in-the-dark cartridge is actually supposed to arrive tomorrow, I believe.
Wow. Look at that. All right.
It's like
Yeah.
perfect time.
Yes, the original cartridge is over $100.
Jeez, man.
Buy it on 3DS before the eShop goes down.
Okay.
I don't know if you can still get the limited run cartridge, which I think was
it's also
like
$100.
40. Yeah, well, I mean their retail price I think was like 45.
It was a reprint.
If you
though.
just wanted the cart, yeah.
All right, we've got mascot
in the dark.
Mascot of the Year up next. This is an IP whose reach extends beyond video games. Considerations for this award are based on cultural impact and quality. So the major mascots represented in this sewer shark. The major mascots represented this year, we have X-Men, Mega Man, Kirby, Mario, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Sonic, Batman, and Darkwing Duck. And so this is considerations for this again are cultural impact and quality. So kind of weighing both of those. Where would you
Turtles
sit?
won last year, right?
Turtles won last year, and
Turtles will always win.
I'm okay with it winning this year because it's hard to beat. Hard to beat.
They had a big year.
If we are talking about the mascot in general beyond video games, I think it's hard to make a case for something like Kirby. Particularly like in the US, we don't get anything Kirby, really. We just get the games and maybe a few other things.
Well,
I mean, in Japan he has cafes, but
you could consider that.
least now he
that
does.
matters, you know? Like he had the
well,
TV show.
if we're restricting it to this year too, though, like the TV show wouldn't appear yet.
Right. So here's my thing. Sonic the Hedgehog, again, I didn't have a Genesis. I played a bunch of Sonic. I really like Sonic 2. I did watch the cartoon, which came out right around, like on the heels of this. I think it was closer to Sonic 3. I would go to a Genovese to pick up prescriptions with my mom, and she would get me Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, like the Archie comics, and I loved those things. They had that like weird robot chicken and that like tank thing with the pointy nose. They were dope.
The
I
Archie
really like
comics
those.
are great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am gonna go Sonic for mascot of the year. I think that two like amplified and established him beyond like the kind of mediocre initial game. I don't think Mario had a strong enough year. I think Mega Man was Mega Man, but yeah, I think Sonic. This is the point where Sonic 2 establishes him, and he goes beyond the game and has these other cultural moments. I think it was really strong.
Okay. I like where this is going. I'm really trying to.
1992. If we are looking beyond video games, 1992 is the year that Batman Returns the movie came out, along with the game, as we already mentioned. So I actually think it's between Turtles and Batman for me.
What about Darkwing Duck?
I like Darkwing Duck. I just don't think he has the, same level of cultural impact as Batman or
Right.
He's not a mascot of the
Turtles.
year. He's not a mascot of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on, you
This
guys
is
want
a-
to get dangerous?
I'm ready to get dangerous, but like I've always had a problem with this category because it's so sort of loose in its definition. And I always want to gravitate towards what initially was a video game
Agreed.
IP that ended up going on that.
Well, I think realistically, like the things that started as video games, until we get to Pokemon, are never going to really compete with the things that started as movies. Movies were just reaching a much bigger audience at this time.
Or comics. Right. Yeah.
Or comics, but comics that had made it into movies at this point, like Batman.
Yeah. Turtles, Batman,
Or
X-Men.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Turtles,
Yeah, but
which
they
is
were
a
all
comic
comics.
that got a TV show.
But so TMNT had a big year. As much as I do love Sonic 2, I don't know that Sonic had this big cultural impact. I really think I'm leaning toward Batman on this one. It's a lot of different factors kind of just coalescing into one, but between the games and the movies, I think Batman takes it over the video game characters. And we had TMNT last year, so it's kind of, I hate to vote for TMNT again, but there is also a compelling argument for Sonic. So it's kind of between Batman and Sonic for me here.
I'll give you the compelling argument for Sonic if you want it.
Is it chili dogs? Because I like chili dogs.
Chili dogs. Here's my thing. I'm in the 90s. And what to me represents the 90s, maybe not 92 specifically, but maybe 92 specifically, is the like punk attitude and the over the top action of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic 2 being the game that kind of defines who he is from then on, came out that year. His transmedia properties come out that year and are of really good quality. I'd say better than any of Mario's transmedia properties coming out that year. Maybe not on the same level as Turtles. Maybe on the same level as Turtles, but
Turtles had some cool comics too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like if Sonic is going to take a year for mascot, it's going to be 92 when it really started to erupt and really disrupt what Nintendo was doing in that year. So my vote's for Sonic, but to me that's where the argument for Sonic goes, is that his representation of the 90s and things were getting away from the kind of kiddie Mario thing and going more towards a Batman, Sonic is the in between.
Adam, we know what you're kind of sitting on. Where's John? Where's John on this?
And this one sucks.
It's a tough category.
I think I'll go. Let's do Sonic the Hedgehog. We'll let Dan have.
Let's go. Thank you, John.
Yeah, chili dogs.
Suck it on, chili dog. So dumb. Sam, do you have any thoughts or feelings?
Sonic deserves nothing.
I mean, Batman is a very good call out. I love the Batman Returns game and the movie. Danny DeVito's wonderful. I like Val Kilmer, so yeah, it would have been better with Val Kilmer as Batman, but whatever. Unpopular opinion.
Maybe.
So, I mean, we got 3 votes for Sonic, so it's Sonic by default, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
but I just want to know where Sam is at on the.
I'll go to Batman, but that is honestly just like I don't want Turtles to be
Yeah.
the vote for the rest of the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a Turtles game next year at all? I don't
Game
think there
Boy,
is.
maybe.
Maybe Game Boy.
I think there's Radical Rescue.
Yeah, but that's not going to win anything.
It's a very good Metroidvania, but
we'll see.
no, it won't win anything. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Sonic the Hedgehog, mascot of the year for 1992. I'm okay with it. All right. Let's move on to innovative game of the year. A game with some standout, unique quality. Considerations for this award are based on execution of innovation. You know, the quality of the game based on the innovations that they produced. This is not to be confused with the Influential Award, which is based on the impact the game had in the future. This is purely how innovative the game was and how it executed that innovation in 92. So, the nominees are Virtua Racing for arcade, Echo the Dolphin for Genesis, Aerobiz for Genesis, Rampart, Sewer Shark for Sega CD, Make My Video for Sega CD, and Mario Paint for Super Nintendo.
I mean, I feel like Mario Paint, this is such a simple one. Like, there's a mouse, which is also very good for, what is it, Mario and Wario?
Yeah.
But
Lemmings.
Good call. King Arthur's World. But Mario Paint, I mean, Fly
That one
Swatter
Aerosmith
alone,
game.
What? I don't even know what that is. Wow.
It's an unreal
I gotta
game.
look that up.
It's a shooter.
No, well, Tin Star. Wait, can you use the mouse on Tin Star? Because I thought that was just
so.
Super Scope. So I tried playing that with controller and could never get past the 6th day because I didn't have a Super Scope. So maybe I should plug my mouse in and figure out if I can finally beat that game. But Mario Paint, Fly Swatter, music composer, all around fun time. Come on. Like,
I spent so
innovative.
much time in Mario Paint as a kid.
Same.
Animating, making songs, backgrounds, doing dumb stuff. It has to be Mario Paint.
It arguably stretches the definition of game, but that's
Yeah.
just another case for it being innovative.
Yeah.
very Nintendo. Yeah. Anybody opposed to Mario Paint? Anybody shouting out things? And I like Rampart, and we've talked about a lot of these games already, but Mario Paint, I think.
This is its category. This is where it wins.
Yeah.
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 We're going to do it.
Everybody cool?
Yeah. Everybody's cool.
Everybody is cool.
Yeah. Everything
You
is
wouldn't go
awesome.
to this podcast.
All right. Let's
Yeah.
do some multiplayer, guys. We've got best multiplayer versus multiplayer specifically. We've got Mortal Kombat in the arcade, Virtua Racing in the arcade, Street Fighter 2, and Super Mario Kart. I don't know, guys. If Street Fighter 2 doesn't take this, it's not going to win anything.
Yeah, do we have
it almost
fighting
has
game?
to like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue Mario Kart, but I mean, it's not exactly versus. Like it
Well,
is, you're racing each other, but you're
no,
racing
there's-
everyone else too.
So Sam, I do have to say, what
There's
I
battle
almost
mode.
yeah, I almost exclusively
Yeah.
played battle mode. My dad would come into my room at 9:00 at night when I'm supposed to be sleeping, and he would be like, Mario Kart, and like we would get up and play battle mode Mario Kart, just him versus me for like half an hour. Battle mode in Super Mario Kart is the redeeming quality in that game. I agree with Dan. It is not that much fun to race in a Mode 7 situation like that. The courses aren't great. I don't think they hold up. There's a lot of nostalgia that comes into play with that game. But Battle mode is still very fun. It's a very, very fun game. I'm going to vote for Mario Kart in this.
I'll vote for Street Fighter. I think it's just very hard not to, especially when you're focusing on versus multiplayer specifically. It's a little bit of a tough comparison because, Street Fighter 2 is very, it's very competitive. It is very skill based. Mario Kart is not, right? And that's to its benefit. It's something that, a father can play with his son. And they can be on mostly equal footing, right? Because you got random items, you got, just all the insanity that is Mario Kart happening. But yeah, I'll give it to Street Fighter. It deserves credit where credit is due.
Mm-hmm. We didn't do best fighting game. Interesting.
It's
there were a number of arcade fighting games, but yeah, well. Yeah, the problem is Street Fighter kept coming out with new ones, so it'll just keep winning that category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Adam, what do you think?
I'm honestly, as much as I do actually legitimately love Super Mario Kart, I really think for versus, I gotta give it to Street Fighter.
Okay, solid.
I don't have much more to elaborate on.
Yeah.
I really just think that is in pure versus, competitiveness. It's Street Fighter. Like Mario Kart is to me more of like a party game, not like a competitive versus game.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, but Street Fighter is pure competition, and it deserves to win in my summation.
And to be fair, Mario Kart comes into its own when you can have it as a party game, when you have a 4-player option on the Nintendo 64. Super Mario Kart, it was really you versus another and then a bunch of computers. Mm-hmm. So I agree. Mario Kart is better when you have multiple players in chaos.
John, where are you at?
I've got to go Street Fighter 2.
Okay. All right.
There we go. Good job.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Dan, is that you as well?
I don't have a dog in this fight at all. I don't like any of these games, so we're gonna just give it to Street Fighter.
Playing as Blanca? He's like a beast.
Oh, I'm terrible.
So
I'm terrible at Street Fighter.
But then you can play as Dalcine.
You know what?
And just stretch across the board, right?
Screw you guys. I'm going Virtua Racing.
Let it be known.
Let it be known. All right. Congratulations, Street Fighter 2, for winning Best versus Multiplayer. All right. Next up, we have Best Co-op Multiplayer. There's a lot of these here. We've got X-Men in the arcade. Joe and Mac finally on board here. NES, SNES, and Genesis. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hyperstone Heist. Teenage Mutant Turtles, Turtles in Time. Streets of Rage 2. And Super Smash TV.
So a note on Joe and Mac. 1992 was the NES release. The Super Nintendo actually came out in 91, according to what I'm looking at.
Weird.
I do not know very much about the NES port. I'm not sure if it even has co-op.
Yeah.
Or if it has super mode, because that actually does bear on my vote. I think super mode is actually a big point in Joe and Mac's favor, even if it does often result in you just taking out your frustration on each other and failing because of it.
It feels contentious, and I'm going to remove it.
That is great. Yeah. So, well, I said my piece. Super mode and Joe and Mac actually forces you to work really hard to work together. So if that's not on here, obviously we have our beat 'em ups, right? Our prime beat 'em ups. I actually think in this case, though, I have to give it to X-Men. Just because it's 6-player. And that's something these other games don't have.
Yeah, I'll second that.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, best co-op multiplayer. I'm trying to remember what of these games have any interaction together aside from we're fighting next to each other.
Yeah, the Smash TV. I don't know Super Smash TV.
It doesn't really.
Yeah. So it's not really co-op. It's
and
just
actually, mechanically you're in co-op, but you are kind of against each other in a way too. So
yeah.
You know what? I'm okay with it going to X-Men, honestly. Like 6-player co-op, really, really good game. Like no reason to deny that.
Adam?
I think it goes to X-Men. It was my arcade pick, and it's the having 6 friends, or even anywhere between 3 to 6 friends in an arcade, picking your favorite X-Men or fighting over who gets to be Wolverine, as often was the case. Just part of the experience, and I wanted to go Turtles in Time, but I think between the two, it's got to go to X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. John, are you on board?
John?
Yep, X-Men it is.
All right. X-Men sweep with the vote.
Woo.
First sweep of the night, I think.
Yeah. No, something else did. Something weird.
Oh.
I forget what it
Not
was.
Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
No, I can look real quick. It was puzzle game.
Well, shocker. They were 2, and one was hats.
All right, this is going to be an interesting one. This is the Influential Award. This is
Lightsy.
a game which began a legacy of franchise of video games in the future. Considerations for this award are based on quality and impact of IP.
Yeah. So we just had oh my god.
Yes.
Well, if we are talking not just about
Let's talk through them real quick. Yeah, sorry, Dan.
We have Mortal Kombat, Kirby's Dream Land, Wave Race, Street Fighter 2, and Super Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if we are not just considering impact the IP has as an IP, but just general impact on the industry,
sorry,
then it
no.
has to be okay.
Yeah.
Because then it would have to be Mortal Kombat. The rating system was created in response to it, so
yes,
that affects
that's
every
true.
game.
That's
after.
true. But also, a lot of those games are bad and they suck. So that's also a consideration to make because quality is a high factor here.
Right.
Like I would say Street Fighter 2 had more of an impact on fighting games in general than Mortal Kombat did. And a lot of those games were very, very high quality. So,
yeah,
Mario
Kart is kind of hard to argue against, in my opinion, even though like we have a lot of questions about the quality of its initial offering here. Like it is the start of the most popular video game series on all Nintendo consoles, some of the greatest selling games of all time, and has been iterated by Nickelodeon and Sonic and Hello Kitty and Garfield.
And
like
M&Ms.
everybody,
Disney.
everybody has a kart racer because of this. That wasn't even supposed to feature Mario characters initially, right? Like they were just like trying to make this kart racer, and they're like, okay, well, we should put the Mario characters in there, and a star was born. It is, I love Kirby. It was a great 3-hour Retro Logic episode digging into the expanse of what Kirby has done, and I think Mortal Kombat, culturally, there was a lot going on there. kids in school talking about ripping things out of people. But Super Mario Kart, it was the start of something that we feel till today, and it's still great.
Yeah, totally agree with all that. I want to make sure that I shout out Wave Race here before it gets buried, because it's such a weird thing for Nintendo to make.
Yeah.
Here's a jet ski game, have fun. And then it's weird for them to say, hey, you know what would be cool? Let's look at these water physics. Let's take a Wave Race game and make it a launch title for the N64, which totally worked because the water looked amazing, and to this day looks incredible and reacts perfectly and looks great. And then you have Blue Storm launching on GameCube, which is just like a better version of the N64 game. I don't want to let Wave Race go overlooked on this list because although it's, it obviously doesn't have the impact of any of the other games on this list, it is fun and cool and important.
Yeah, I think it goes unsung in general too. Like I think a lot of people just think there are two Wave Race games because Wave Race 64 was so big. They think that was the originator. So
yeah, for sure. And like you said with Kirby, as much as I absolutely adore Kirby, the character and what he's become today and the game, like I don't think even compared to Mario, I don't think any other IP has had his sheer variety of spin-offs that were that high quality. They kept changing it up with Rainbow Curse and Dream Course, Epic Yarn, and just like the genre bending and Mass Attack and fighting games, like all kinds of stuff. Then all of them are really, really good, which is really hard to pull off. So that deserves a mention as well. I don't like Super Mario Kart, but I love Mario Kart 64. I love Double Dash. I love Mario Kart Wii. I love Mario Kart 8. I get to be Donkey Kong. So on the grounds of Donkey Kong, I have to go Super Mario Kart on this one with Liam.
Donkey Kong is the qualifier for you.
Yeah, there's no Donkey Kong in 93. What do you want from me? 92 is devoid of
There's no Donkey Kong in that game.
So
either.
strictly speaking, it's Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Super Mario Kart. I'm talking about Mario Kart in general.
Okay, got
The influence of Mario Kart. Let me have this, okay?
You have so much Sonic tonight, Dan. You're good.
I do have a lot of Sonic. Thank you.
And yet Streets of Rage didn't win anything.
Yeah.
So
It won something in your heart. That's fine.
Yeah, we tried.
Maybe it can win console of the year.
Adam, where are you at on influence here?
Oh, it's Super Mario Kart. I mean, come on.
John?
Come on.
Same. It's got to be Mario Kart.
Sam?
Yeah, Mario Kart.
All right, sweet. Let's go. Mario Kart.
Guys,
all
we're
day.
Finishing strong here.
I know. Yeah, we got a very, very important
We're about to get
award.
diddled. Yeah.
Let's
get diddled.
A new award to the show. We call it the Plock Award for Outstanding Weirdness. Considerations for this award are based on quality and weirdness. So it can't just be weird. It has to be playable, fun, good, all that stuff. So
basically, this is the game that distills the essence of Plock.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. We've got Cadillacs and Dinosaurs for the arcade, Avenging Spirit for the Game Boy, Spanky's Quest, Kid Chameleon for the Genesis, Monster in My Pocket for the NES, Toxic Crusaders, Hatris for the NES.
Ugh.
This is his day. This is his hour. Okay, this is Hatris's hour, and Night Trap for the Sega CD.
I didn't even know it was a game.
Tetris
Monster in My Pocket. Didn't know Monster in My Pocket. That was a toy, wasn't it? That's a game.
I have the toys. Yeah, I was completely unaware there was a game.
The game is not great, but it is.
Well, then it
fun.
can't be. Then get it out of here.
Quality is a big consideration here.
Fine.
Yeah, Plock is great.
Monster in My Pocket didn't.
Monster in My Pocket is weird.
Yeah.
Though.
We can't associate Plock with bad games.
Yeah. All right. So for me, and again, I am very excited to play Avenging Spirit. There's something to be said about it weirdly being about dying in the first 5 seconds and then being a ghost
and,
the rest
and
of the time.
so having played it, I will also comment the game has just an incredible hodgepodge of enemy types for you to fight and take possession of, including robots, dragons, baseball players, ninjas, martial artists, Tommy gun toting gangsters. It's got it all. It really does.
I just feel like this is where Spanky's quest actually shines.
I was gonna say
it's such an odd game, but it is very good. And yeah, that feels right to me. I don't know where are you at on it, Sam?
I was kind of thinking ahead, and part of justifying giving Underdog to Avenging Spirit was the knowledge that I think Spanky's Quest can take the Plock Award.
Yeah.
This is a game where you control a monkey who bounces a bubble on his head, and you pop the bubble, and it turns into various sport balls that defeat enemies. Why? I don't know. It's
a bubble monkey. It's a game about a bubble monkey. What is that? I don't know. And a witch.
It sounds a game about a bubble monkey.
Yeah.
Partially.
Yeah. And I guess Bubble Bobble, which I also love, is about bubble dragons. So go figure. Yeah.
And it is interesting. It just because I haven't gotten to talk about it quite so much. I think that those Natsume platformers just hit different. I don't know what it is about them, but like it's just because it's kind of a slow paced game. But at the same time, it can also be very frantic because you've got enemies that are going to catch up to you. Like you can't really wait at the same time. Like it's not twitchy, but like you have to be very deliberate and know what you're doing on each stage. Otherwise, even case in point, when you run out of time, the crow appears and starts chasing you.
It's very bubble
making the game, yeah, and like it's not single. I think the Game Boy version. So I should note too, it came out on Game Boy and Super Nintendo. I'm mostly talking about the Super Nintendo version. The Game Boy version was actually developed by a separate team, and it's quite different. The general concept is the same, but it's quite different. But the Super Nintendo one is not exactly like single screen platformer. But it kind of like the stages are pretty small, but they do scroll back and forth. It kind of reminds me a lot of Donkey Kong 94 on the Game Boy, just in the general like feel and structure of it. Like, it's not quite puzzle platformer, but it has shades of that. Like you're usually trying to find a key and then get to the door. Yeah, Spanky's Quest, man, and it's just it deserves attention. It deserves an award, and it deserves the Plock Award.
It feels like a good fit. I really like Kid Chameleon, I'll say, and the only argument I would make for Kid Chameleon here is Plock had those great power-ups.
Oh yeah.
You would like the transformation stuff, and Kid Chameleon, that's the name of the game. It's super, super fun.
Oh man,
you get like the spike head or whatever. Like it,
you're an axe murderer, and then you're a fly, and then you're a dude in a tank, and then you're a knight, and then you're a flying surfer guy. There's no end to just weird variety of costumes and stuff.
It's a close second for me. Like I feel like Spanky has to take it because I think that Kid Chameleon, while it is very fun, the quality of the game ultimately lacks a little bit. Like it's not a game that I feel like is that tight.
It definitely leans closer to the weird side than the quality side.
I've played a lot of Kid Chameleon, and it's like it's one of those where like you can have fun with it, but that's about the extent.
Yeah. I mean, I have never played Spanky's Quest, so it feels weird voting for it. I guess I want to hear John or Adam if you guys have played it, if you're voting for it.
It's on NSO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. What are you waiting for?
How to go play right now?
I think Spanky's
It
Quest
has a monkey in it, Dan.
for
Well,
real.
What more do you need?
He's not a Kong, but it's close. He just call him Spanky Kong.
I will say,
Yeah.
I do have a thing
It's
for
Spanky
monkeys.
Kong.
Spanky Kong.
Well, in my estimation, it's the plockiest game
Yeah.
on this list.
It is.
And if that's the qualifier, then I think Spanky is the obvious choice.
Okay. John?
Yeah, definitely Spanky's Quest out of this list.
Okay, rock
Sam,
and
I
roll.
just looked at. There's something about this here saying it's also based on Monkey Reflections: The Adventures of Mr. Hero. Is Spanky's Quest based on a book called Monkey Reflections? Do you know anything about it?
What is
I
happening?
do not know. I know
don't
that
know.
in Japan it was titled Lucky Monkey.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to dig into
Okay.
this. Sorry, guys.
Guys, we have
Continue
a
on.
We need to know more about this. Though,
Yeah,
for
I need to
sure.
learn about the Monkey Reflections. Go ahead.
We have a Spanky sweep. So
Yes.
Spanky
Yeah.
Oh, and
Sweet.
I should mention. It bears mentioning too. All the enemies are are living fruit.
of course. Yeah.
Just
Good.
I feel like we need to remind people of that, in case they don't know.
Sports beat fruit.
Guys, let's talk community game of the year.
Love the
We
community.
had a list of every game that we talked about tonight, and we asked the community to chime in. What is their favorite game? Everybody could vote 3 times, because people have more than one favorite. And by pretty much double anything else, A Link to the Past took the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just come over here. Our number 2 game is Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. Yep. And then our number 3 game is tied between Kirby's Dream Land and Dragon Warrior 3, actually.
Wow. The Dragon Warrior 3?
Yep.
For
Which we weren't supposed to vote on, but there it is.
Nope.
yeah. Well, so I feel like yeah.
It snuck. We'll
Does
give
that
it.
mean that Kirby takes it then?
Kirby
Yeah,
takes it
Kirby
by
takes
default.
it.
Yeah, so Kirby wins
Yeah.
our 3rd place community games of the year. Thank you guys for voting. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just being awesome and interacting and sending us cool stuff to talk about. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode. But we're not done quite yet. We have to talk console of the year, which last year went to the Super Nintendo. This year is pretty intense. There's a lot going on from the NES to the Sega Genesis to the Game Boy to the Super Nintendo. SNES has Link to the Past, Mario Kart, Turtles in Time, Spanky's Quest. Game Boy hit really hard this year. I'm almost leaning towards Game Boy. Kirby's Dream Land, Mario Land 2, Mega Man 2, Wave Race, Yoshi, Super Off-Road, Avenging Spirit, Sega Genesis with Sonic 2, Streets of Rage 2, Echo, Shining Force, Hyperstone Heist, and then NES with Mega Man 4. Oh, sorry, that's not it. Not Mega Man 4. Mega Man 5, Rampart, Bucky O'Hare, Manhattan Project, Dragon Warrior 4. So, who wants to go first? Who wants to throw out a vote for console of the year?
It's Super Nintendo.
Yep.
Why? Because of that one game you like?
No, because of the dozen or so games that came out that year for the system.
Look,
I mean, come on.
here's the thing. Super Nintendo took it last year, right? Mario World,
So
whatever.
but you can't use that. Okay.
I-
You can't use that
Okay.
as a qualifier.
Fine. I'm
what I mean?
I'm not gonna go where you think I'm gonna go. Okay. Here's what I think. I think that the Game Boy this year. This is like pretty much the best year that Game Boy had post Pokemon. And even if you consider Pokemon, it's like that one game made that entire system come back to life. There wasn't a bunch of stuff happening. But this year, between Kirby, Mario, Mega Man, Wave Race, Yoshi, Avenging Spirit, Spanky's Quest, it kind of encapsulates everything we talked about in this episode with a few, notable misconsiderations. I love Zelda. I'm glad it's there. But the games on Super Nintendo that we love had some representation here on the Game Boy. Actually, no, it didn't. But that's my thing. Sorry, I thought there was a Turtles game on here. There's not. But I just think like if you're gonna go Zelda, Mario Kart, Ninja Turtles, like great, awesome. We have Kirby, Mario, Mega Man on Game Boy, and to me, it's like they're at least even.
But on Super Nintendo, you also have Contra 3. You have Mario Paint, Super Star Wars, Yoshi's Cookie. I mean, Soul Blazer that won RPG of the year. There's so much like blossoming on Super Nintendo that it's Game Boy is great, but it's like it feels like every game on the Game Boy, almost every game on the Game Boy, has to compromise in order for it to work.
Well, sure, but if you're comparing
the nature of the Game Boy,
right? If you're comparing like, let's play Kirby's Dream Land against Kirby's Dream Land 3 or Super Mario Land against Super Mario World, that's not what we're doing. That's a different argument.
So go ahead.
I was just saying I get what you're saying, but I think there's more to offer on Super Nintendo in 1992 than the Game Boy has to offer. It's not that there aren't great games, but if we're looking at like the totality of what's available to play, it's like so far ahead of the others.
I don't think it's so far ahead. I think it there's a few games more.
I think Super Nintendo has such a strong case for itself. Like I think that this is the year that the Super Nintendo established itself beyond, like it came into existence with a blast, and then this year it really followed it up with a strong 1-2 punch. But that said, my money goes on Game Boy for this as well. I think the argument of having something beyond it was Tiger, right? That did those like handheld things that were all like the cells,
electronic games.
Yeah, like Game Boy had such a proposition with Tetris, and I played Battletoads and a bunch of other games, but it wasn't until the Kirby and Mario World 2 1-2 punch of this year where the Game Boy became undeniable to me and became my de facto console. Like I didn't play NES much at this point. Like as I'm remembering this and looking back over these games, like I played Bucky O'Hare a bunch and one or two others, and I look at the Super Nintendo, and I got my Super Nintendo this year, and I played A Link to the Past a bunch, but like my Game Boy was inseparable from me at this point. Like it wasn't like that in years before. This is the year for me where it was this is went everywhere with me. I played it in the car so much that I thought I was going to puke. Like this this suddenly became a part of my time. Like I this is when I fell in love with the Game Boy.
Yeah. Well, let's hear Sam and John. I want to know what they have to say.
Sam, you want to go first?
Yeah, I do think there is a strong case to be made for the Game Boy. I think this is actually a pretty strong year for the Genesis.
Yeah, that's a
Sonic
three-way.
Look, I wasn't even going to go
Sonic
there
aside,
because I don't want to be disappointed again.
Streets of Rage. I mean, to me, a year where we got both Shining Force and Aerobiz is really stand out. He just, you don't see that in the strategy genre on Super Nintendo. For comparison, Game Boy is bringing a lot of heavy hitters. It's kind of weird because I think obviously with Super Nintendo the standout is Link to the Past, but you do have a lot of stuff filling out the other spaces, even if they're not necessarily the best of games. You have stuff like Mario Paint coming out. You have stuff like Soul Blazer. You have stuff it really hits the all around variety, and I think that's the key to it. You look back at that Game Boy lineup, and it's pretty much platformers with a little bit of some of the other stuff, right? A little bit of, I guess, what we might call action games, but I mean, Mega Man's still very platformery.
Mm-hmm.
Super Nintendo really has it all, except for, oddly enough, the strategy games, which, if you lived in Japan, it kind of did. I don't know if Fire Emblem was out on Super Nintendo yet, actually. I don't think it was. So yeah, I have to give it to Super Nintendo just for kind of the sheer variety, the sheer number of like A- games that it brings to the table, right? Even if they aren't A+, I think cumulatively that just overwhelms the competition.
Let me say something about this award. I don't know that there's gonna be a year that beats the Super Nintendo until we get to N64 or PlayStation or whatever, right? And so what I want to consider is that given the Game Boy's situation, given the Game Boy's library, this is probably the year where you get the widest swath of quality IP, really good games, like playable games, and it deserves recognition for that. Whereas the Super Nintendo, 93 you get Super Metroid, 94 you get Donkey Kong Country, and it just keeps going and going. This might be even a weak year for the Super Nintendo comparatively. So that's a consideration that I want to make as well. I also want to talk Sega Genesis, but Sam kind of already hit it. It's a crazy year for the Sega Genesis as well. But it's almost kind of the same thing. Like you have Sonic 2, which is like a crazy system seller, but then you have like some other pretty good games. But the Sega Genesis also has 93 and 94 coming up, which are just better and better. So that's my consideration for Game Boy this year, is that Game Boy year to Game Boy year, this might be its year. Heavy Mario, heavy Kirby. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the developers figured out how to develop for the Game Boy at this point. Like Mega Man should never have worked on an 1.5 to 2 inch screen. It's you can't do detail platforming like that, but somehow they figured out how to balance the sprites with the difficulty and make it look really good. Super Mario Land is a terrible looking game with a rubber ball instead of a fire flower, because what else were you supposed to do? It looked awful.
Yeah.
It looked so bad. And then you see Mario 2 on there and you're just like, this is a gorgeous, intricate, well-made game. They figured out how to develop for the Game Boy at this point. I think you're right, Dan. I think this is the year that console comes into its own, and you look at its back catalog and see the growth to this point. I think we're seeing it apex at this. Pokemon aside, I think you see the apex.
That's like a second renaissance almost back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John, what are you thinking about? What are you on to right now?
Yeah, John, you're in
kind of the tiebreaker.
Yeah, as much as, I mean, the Game Boy is starting to fire on all cylinders here, and Sega is pretty good this year. I still think that the Super Nintendo just was where it was at. Like you had
Get out of here with that.
a ton of games.
Wow, the notes just got real janky.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't leave the Super Nintendo behind. Like it was the deal, man.
You're not leaving it behind. It's gonna win the next 3 years. Leaving it behind.
Well,
You're leaving the Game
maybe it
Boy behind is
deserves
what you're
to.
doing.
No, the Game Boy is around for a long time. Like we're not even to Pokemon
All
yet.
right, we'll wait till 1998 when we can win for Pokemon, I guess. Jeez.
Well, also, I mean, I hear all the arguments for the Game Boy, and they're valid, but it's like, as much as the Game Boy was able to do, just because it overcomes a lot of its shortcomings and it has a great year, doesn't mean that it just automatically deserves to win over a console.
you can't.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You
Can't give
can't.
it a pity vote.
No. It's not a pity vote. Listen to me. You can't pit the Super Nintendo and the Game Boy together on an even playing field because the Super Nintendo is automatically always going to win. Better graphics, bigger screen, better controller. It's always going to win. You have to take the Game Boy
I know, but that's
for what it's
exactly
worth.
what we're
You
doing.
have to take the Game Boy and say here's what it's capable of and here's what we did with it. And the same thing with the Super Nintendo. And they're almost like, you're almost taking them and saying, like, on their own playing field, which one took the ball and went further with it. And it has to be Game Boy with Mario 2 and Kirby. It has to
And
be.
how much time did you spend? Time did you guys spend with those consoles? Like I just
Sure.
didn't spend as much time with Super Nintendo as I did with the Game Boy. The Game Boy went with me everywhere.
And that's something you have to consider is say, you know what? The Game Boy, when I left my house, which happened a lot as a kid, it went with me. It was my travel companion.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what, Super Nintendo, if it wins, it wins. I'm not going to fight the vote. I'm just really disappointed in you guys.
All right, Dad.
That's what you get for voting for Sonic so many times.
Whatever, man. Whatever. Okay, this is gonna be how the glory ends in Retro Logic. It's just like us fighting over this
I'm
Game
interested
Boy.
to see what how the community weighs in on this one.
Yeah.
Like this needs to go back to the community once we're done with this. I want a discourse here
Yeah,
because I feel very similarly.
big time. All right, I
right.
guess console of the year goes to Super Nintendo again.
Yep. As it should.
I'm so mad at you guys right now.
You guys can't see these faces. It's fantastic.
Ridiculous. I'm red.
right.
I'm beat red.
Yeah. Well,
Freaking Zelda.
are we ready for the climax?
I don't know.
Are we ready for the finale?
Okay, let me
I think we know how it's gonna go at this point.
let me just get
Right,
composed before Zelda wins another award. Hang on. Let me just take a breath here because it's been a 3-hour podcast. There's a lot of emotions running around right now. We're all friends here. Okay. So, 1992 Game of the Year. For your consideration, we have Kirby's Dream Land on Game Boy, Super Mario Land 2 on Game Boy, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Genesis, Streets of Rage 2 on Genesis, Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo, and A Link to the
The
Past on
Oh.
Super Nintendo. Right. Okay, yeah. So if you're voting for Zelda, I don't know, just say Zelda.
I'll say I just looked back. Sonic won 2 awards tonight.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
I'm happy about it. Overall, I say I'm really happy.
3 more than he deserves.
Oh my God, shut up.
I
Overall,
had to throw it out there.
I'm really happy with how things turned out this year. Really good year for a lot of different genres and games. So Liam and Adam and John all voted for Link to the Past. Sam, where are you going?
Link to the Past.
Okay, cool.
Don't give it the sweep, Dan. I know what you
No,
want to
I'm
do.
not. I'm not going to give it the sweep. Absolutely not. I'm going Sonic 2 for reasons.
Oh.
Night Trap.
Here's
Could have voted for any other one, and I would have respected you.
I know. And Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a defining moment for Sonic. It's a game that I love. It's a soundtrack that I love. It's a character that I love. I could have gone Turtles in Time. It was pretty split for me between those two. And I just feel like Sonic 2 means more to me here than Turtles in Time does right now. So
I realized that if you truly wanted to spite me, you would have voted for Streets of Rage 2 now when it doesn't matter.
I am actually bummed that did it not win anything?
No, it didn't win a thing.
Man, I
voted for it in like 5 categories. It didn't win any.
I was vouching for you for beat 'em up. It was rough. That was a rough time.
A lot of good beat 'em ups, though.
A lot of good beat 'em
Streets of
ups.
Rage
It was a great year for beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It was a tough year.
Yes, overall, honestly,
All right, so
would have been a lot tougher if Link to the Past had come out the next year, but it was still a tough year.
yeah, it's good. It's good. Next year is going to be very interesting to see what comes out next year, and then 94, I'm hype about for obvious reasons. Let's just really quick recap our winners this year. Best arcade game goes to X-Men Arcade. Best PC game goes to Wolfenstein 3D. Best TurboGrafx game goes to Soldier Blade. Best SNES game goes to Link to the Past. Best NES game goes to Mega Man 5. Best Genesis game goes to Sonic 2. Best Sega CD game goes to Night Trap. Best Game Boy game is Kirby's Dream Land. Best Game Gear game is Axe Battler Legend of Golden Axe. Best platformer is Super Mario Land 2. Best action game is Mega Man 5. Best adventure game is Link to the Past. Best beat 'em up is Turtles in Time. Best RPG is Soul Blazer. Still don't know what that is. Best shooter is Wolfenstein 3D. Best puzzle game is Yoshi. Best strategy game is Rampart. Best racing game is Mario Kart. Best soundtrack is Link to the Past. Best underdog of the year is Avenging Spirit. Mascot of the year is Sonic the Hedgehog. Innovative game of the year is Mario Paint. Multiplayer game of the year is Street Fighter 2. Best co-op is X-Men Arcade. Influential award is Super Mario Kart. Plock award for outstanding weirdness goes to Spanky's Quest. The community games of this year were number 1, Link to the Past. Number 2, Mario Land 2. Number 3, Kirby's Dream Land. Console of the year goes to the Super Nintendo. And the 1992 game of the year, again, A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. Okay, only 3.5 hours, guys. We got through it.
Good job.
This is going to air kind of like between Christmas and New Year's, so we can take a little break. Thank you guys for listening to the Retro Logic podcast all year long. Make sure you're also checking out Retro Groove. Adam and Liam are always pouring so much heart into what they do, and I just think it's literally one of my favorite podcasts. So
Thanks.
Go check it out.
It's super fun to do.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say here, guys. We did it. We did another GOTY30. So
Good job,
yeah,
everybody.
Go us. Yeah. So we'll see you guys next year.
Wow.
Yep.
Feels like we just did this.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did.
Time flies.
Get ready for next year. Clock will sweep all categories.
Is
Calling
Mega Man
it now.
X next year, Sam?
Clock,
think-
though.
No, that
Yeah,
was
but
last
is Mega
year.
Man?
Yeah, Mega Man X is next year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mega Man
oh.
X is heavy. That's heavy.
That's heavy, yeah.
Yeah,
Next year is a
Yeah.
great year, actually.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And Link's Awakening.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yes.
I think Game Boy might take it next year.
Yeah. Okay. Game Boy has a chance.
Yeah, Link's Awakening is.
Oh, it's a strong fighting chance next year.
Yeah. Link's Awakening is my favorite 2D Zelda. That's
Not against Plock, it doesn't.
Here's the question, Sam: will Plock win its own award next year?
Oh,
I don't know how. I don't know how sure I'd be.
You know, I
Now
think
that's
the most
Plock
Plock thing would be for Plock not to win.
Don't even
Stay
nominate it.
tuned and see if Plock
Can't even
wins
nominate.
its own award.
All right, guys, let's close it out. We'll see y'all next year. Thanks for listening to the Retro Logic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you can check me out on Twitter at RetroLogicGames. You can also check out our website, which is retrologic.games, for our Discord link, merch, all kinds of fun going on there. So go check that out. And that is it. We will see y'all next time. Peace.
I know.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Link to the Past. Go play it.
I will. In 2 years, guys, we got a Donkey Kong Country sweep coming, so you better be ready for it.
Ooh.
Every category.
Guys, this is gold.
Best shooter, best PC game, underdog,
Best shooter.
all of it.
Because he shoots out of the barrel.
He shoots,
'Cause
yeah.
it's best shooter.
Yep. Mhm. Beat him
That's a
up
good call.
because you beat
You
up
had to wait till
stuff.
Donkey Kong 64 for that, right?
Best RPG.
Guys, I played Deadly Creatures for the Wii for the backlog thing in the Nintendo Dads Discord. I don't know if anybody here has ever played Deadly Creatures, but
I love
that was pretty fun.
It's so
It was
good.
really fun.
I own it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be good. It was very good.
All right.
And
I
it wasn't
gotta
that
pull
long.
up.
Surprisingly
Boom,
more
this guy
expensive
right here,
than
man.
it would be.
Is it? Hey, yeah.
I love it. It's so
Dude,
freaking good.
There's a commentary in the extras with Billy Bob Thornton
Mm-hmm.
where he tells this whole story about how he had a pet snake when he first moved to LA and he used to drive around with it wrapped around his shoulders so that people would look at him weird in traffic. I'm like, who the fuck are you? This is a fucking clown.
Billy Bob Thornton.
So great.
That's who it is. That's who it is.
Yeah, that's exactly the
All
answer.
right.